We are live. Good evening, dear friends, and welcome to this exciting Swarm event. You are witnessing the launch of Swarm Beta. My name is Michelle, and I will be your host for tonight. Tonight, we mark another milestone in the development of Swarm and will be one step closer to achieving a free and fair internet. The people you will hear from tonight are not just developers or scientists. In these challenging times, each and every one of them are nothing less than heroes. It takes vision and courage to challenge the status quo Internet 2.0 seems to be stuck in. We are living in a world where you are no longer the user, but the product. Your attention and data is being packaged and sold to the highest bidder, who is using this data to influence your behavior and thus who you become. You might feel that I'm a bit dramatic for this opening talk, but there's a simple and sad truth. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. That's why I'm so happy to have met the amazing people that make up the Swarm team and everybody else working in this decentralized ecosystem. They give us the hope that if we band together and use our talent to the fullest, we can change this dystopian reality and make technology work for all of us and not only for NASDAQ. Tonight, you will hear from Swarm team members, but also people from the broader ecosystem. And the fireworks for tonight are, of course, provided by the release of Swarm Beta. Let me remind you of our Swarm Orange Lounge, where you can chat with like-minded people during and after this event. You can find this link, I hope, in the chat here, and otherwise we can also show you a QR code later that you can use to scan. Oh, it's already here. So if you scan this QR code, you will enter our Swarm Orange Lounge, which is sort of the in-crowd of Swarm. I am very honored to announce our opening talk for this event, which is Antti Poikola. Antti develops solutions for the open collaboration between citizens and the public sector organizations. He's active in open data, my data, and cycling movements in Finland and elsewhere. His calling is to work with issues that make cities and urban areas better and more sustainable places to live in. Antti, are you here? Can you please enable your webcam and your
Yes,
microphone?
I'm here.
Oh, should I call you Yogi or should I call you Antti?
Yogi is good.
Yes,
but I wonder,
Yogi
my
sort
video
of,
is not visible, so maybe.
No, that's not good. I was hoping to see your face.
Yes, better
Well,
this way.
okay, now we see you. So, Yogi, please go ahead, and I'm happy to give you the screen.
Okay, thanks a lot. So let me see, can I share my slides here also? I think I have no rights for that. Okay, here I see them. Okay, good. So as introduced, my name is Antti Yogi Poikola. I'm member of My Data Global, an association that seeks to give people access and control over their own data. So I'm very pleased to be here with you in this Swarm beta launch event. I'm going to tell you a little bit of my data, what it is, and then our journey of interoperability. That's kind of the message that I want to pass to you all. So there are lots of technologies being developed at the moment in the world also for more human-centric personal data and sovereignty of people. And it is crucially important that all of the developers also kind of see the bigger picture and try to make the solutions work together, because otherwise we cannot be reaching the human centricity. So my slides are online. You can find them from this short URL. Maybe somebody can even copy it to the chat. So yes, a little bit of my background. So I'm serving the board of My Data Global Association as the vice chair. And I've been developing this concept of human-centric personal data now for the last, I would say, maybe 8 years, starting 2012. And I'm from Finland. I live in Helsinki. And I'm happy to acknowledge that my data was mentioned in the Finnish government agenda already 5 years ago, and now it is being acknowledged by the European Commission in the data strategy. So there is a little bit of political lobbying here happening. So I guess that most of the audience here are mostly from the technical side, and I'm also slightly technical, but I tend to call myself as digitalization lobbyist. And I think we all need to work together to get the best technologies out into use. So there is influence, and politics are important in that case as well. So My Data Global is a nonprofit. It has roughly 600 members, individual members and organizational members. It has members from 50 countries and over 20 local hubs, reaching from Australia and Japan to Silicon Valley and Brazil. Most of the hubs are in Europe, and we have 4 thematic groups, and some of the topics that I will be touching today are coming from the thematic group called My Data Operators. So coming back to that soon. But anyways, first, My Data, it's human-centric personal data management idea for that. So organizations and initiatives are independently converging towards similar ideas about personal data infrastructure management and governance, where the people themselves would be in the driver's seat regarding the use and sharing of data from them and about them. So I'm quite sure that most of the folks here in this launch event also feels like being on this same boat. So My Data Global Association has its aim as fair, sustainable, and prosperous digital society through a human-centric approach to personal data. And we believe that this would give people should get value from their data, and people should set the agenda on how their data is being used. And this would be at the same time also organizations would, the ethical use of data would be always the most attractive option for the organization. So we are trying to reach this balance in the world. And if you go online, you will find the declaration of My Data Principles on mydata.org/declaration. So we have identified 3 big shifts that should happen in the world so that we can get there. So we need to move from formal rights to actionable rights. So everybody knows perhaps the GDPR and new kind of regulations that are popping up in Europe and in other parts of the world. It's good. It's great we have the data protection regulation, but that's not enough if it's not actionable for people. For example, in the GDPR regulation in Europe, there is Article 20 that says that we should get our digital data in machine readable format. Fine, that's a great piece of legislation, but we need to have the tools to actually make that right useful for people. And then other shift is that we need to move our mindset from data protection only to empower people with their data. So it's not, well, you can say that people who are locked in a jail are very safe and protected. Nobody can hit them, and they are not suffering from bad weather. But anyways, they are not empowered, they are not free. So I think we need to keep on having the good data protection, but also climbing up to the ladders of giving people the benefits from their data. And this means that technically we need to move from closed to open ecosystems, interoperability on technical level, and also business-wise. And here is an illustration of the point from moving from data protection to empowerment with data. So in the old world, we had only paper documents, which were not so good for using personal data. It was useless, basically, and also the data protection wasn't so good. Now we are moving in Europe, for example, to strong data protection regime. That's great. Then here on the left side, you see the big data giants that everybody dislikes. They are using lots of data. And we think that My Data should be the way to have the strong data protection and also let people use their data for their benefits. So people would decide. So we would get the both sides using data and having good protection. And how to make it happen and make it right. This is a slogan that we often use in My Data. So we want to make this kind of human-centric personal data infrastructure and world to actually happen, coming out from the labs and out from the small initiatives so that it's for everyday use for everybody. But at the same time, it needs to happen so that we don't kind of end up renewing some of the problems that we are having in the current data economy, or even creating worse problems. So we need to make it happen and make it right at the same time. And for that, we are working on 3 different levels in My Data. So I think the most important part for us in My Data Global is the infrastructure. I come back to tell a bit of the My Data operators soon, but we believe that there will be organizations that offer the human-centric data management infrastructure. And those organizations who offer it, they will use some sort of technologies and standards. And here we come to Swarm, for example. I believe that there will be decentralized, interoperable, globally accepted standards for many of the things that we need to in order to build that infrastructure. If the infrastructure that we rely on, if it's closed and proprietary, it's not safe and scalable. And then climbing up is the question of governance. So who decides? Who decides, and who decides who decide? And it may be that some of here think and rightly say that we should not have the organizations like trusted intermediaries. We should create good standards and that's it. That's my personal opinion, that we eventually, anyways, there is somebody doing decisions. There is some group of developers, there is some community, there is somebody who governs the decisions that we make. And this governance structure should be made visible and transparent so that we can guarantee that the human-centric principles are followed. So now I will tell a few words about My Data operators. So we are living now in this kind of API ecosystem. So many of the services that we use on daily basis, they are somehow maybe connected with some other services. Everybody talks that there should be APIs, fine. But APIs are always provided and governed by those organizations that actually set them up. And they may close them any day or change the design so that the other services get broken. So this is not very reliable model, not good for people. We don't know where our data is flowing, and it's not good for the developers either. So what's happening now is that some of the big ones, they are starting to kind of create these mega platforms that connect all sorts of data from our health to our mobility to our finances, and make it easy to access and create applications. But they are having this unitary point of control, which is not good. So we believe that the world should be so that individuals are the connection points for data related to their life, so that if somebody wants to develop a service that would be beneficial for me and would need my data, it would be enough for that party to come and ask from me. I could give these permissions. But that should be made so that we don't burden individuals under responsibilities, so that it's reliable and trustworthy system without individuals being completely left alone. Okay, these kind of my data operators, they are continuing the story of so-called trusted intermediaries, which has been developed since 90s with different names: intermediaries, vendor relationship management, life management platforms, etc. And now also more recently data trusts and cooperatives. I think that many of you are thinking now that why the heck do we need these new intermediaries? In the full decentralization, it would be okay also individual to be their own self-operator. But in my data, we look at, we don't say that it's the only way to go, that there is full decentralization or nothing at all. We see that there is kind of shades of gray and different ways to get there. And we want to study what's common there and make the interoperability between the different systems. So currently data is being collected, managed and used in silos in one company. And with this kind of intermediaries where the individual would be in control, we see that the same data could be used in different services. I could give my, let's say, loyalty card data to get better recommendations, or counting my CO2 footprint or whatnot. But it should be always me making the decisions, and it should be as easy to withdraw the decision as to give the permission. And we see these operators working in ecosystems where they are interoperable. So like if you give me your phone number, I can call you, because the phone operators all around the world, they share the common standards and they have the interoperability between them. But if you look at the current day systems like Facebooks and WhatsApps, they are not interoperable between themselves. So we see that these my data operators should work as a network, like we have network of teleoperators or networks of banks, etc. I will speed up a little bit. In this year, we published a white paper on understanding my data operators, and we gathered roughly 50 organizations that are building this kind of infrastructure right now from 15 countries. And we approached these organizations that we knew could qualify as proto-operators. We requested them to read and comment on the paper draft and subsequently indicate if they wish to be included as proto-operators. So we have this live community of organizations that are actually doing it, and I'm welcoming you to join if you feel that you are developing some critical technology on this area. So this is just a slide of these different organizations from different countries, and there are many, hopefully some familiar names also. When these organizations, they shared what they are doing, we developed this My Data Operator reference model for describing 9 core functional elements of these operators. And here you see those. Identity management, we need to know who is active in the network. Permission management, how can one give and withdraw permissions? We need to have the endpoints for the services. Where can we find them? There needs to be some sort of value exchange, maybe in form of monetary exchange or some other tokens. Data needs to be interoperable at some level. So there needs to be data model management, and also personal data transfer. It needs to move at some point between different services. and personal data storage. I think here it's really interesting what Swarm is developing for decentralized data storage. And around this, there is the governance, support, and logging and accountability. And this interoperability part, we are now moving on so that we have asked each and every one of those services to describe how they actually implement those 9 modules. And we are making people to communicate and compare. So interoperability happens on technical level. It happens on semantic level so that we actually understand the data. It happens in legal level so that it's okay to move the data around, and on organizational level. And we should see it more widely than the technical interoperability only. I will be skipping now since I know that I'm almost end of my time, but I want to pass this journey of interoperability as the mental metaphor for this community as well. So we use it throughout to lay the initial roadmap with minimum interoperability criteria for the operators. And we start building from those minimum criteria upwards. So interoperability is more art than science. It's art of people and communities to coming together and actually acknowledging that there is a lot to gain when we work together. And everybody needs to be a little bit of patient and be open for explaining how they see the world and want to make it happen. So this is end of my story. You can download the white paper if you wish, mydata.org operators. That's the link to white paper. And if this community is interesting to you, there was the declaration, we have the white paper, and we have very active 2,500 people Slack community, and you can also join as a member if you wish. So thank you very much. And I'm pleased to hang around and hear what else happens in this Swarm event.
Thank you so much, Yogi. We will be very happy to have you hanging around here. Maybe it's worthwhile to mention that Personium and Fairdrop, like 2 projects we'll be hearing from later in this event, already have the operator status. That's correct? Or you're gone already? That's okay. Thank you so much, Yogi. Next up, Yogi, maybe you can stop sharing your screen because I think I still see that on the, yeah, yes, this is better. So next up, I'm gonna have a little chat with my good friend, Gregor. Gregor, are you there?
Yes.
What an amazing background again.
It's all credit goes to Igor, our artist and designer.
I'm happy you mentioned him because all these graphics and especially this intro animation for the people who were here before the event actually started, I think this was a great start already. It's amazing what he's doing with, you know, translating our vision and the way we see the world into art and graphics. Igor, chapeau, we say in French. Anyhow.
Yes, he's rocking. Also, your Swarm logo in the background, it's rocking. It's looking good.
Thank you so much. I am not streaming it from Swarm yet because I don't have Chromecast integration in Fairdrive yet, but that will come later.
But it's self-hosted.
It is self-hosted, yes. Yeah, Gregor. First thing I wanted to ask you is just give us like a general news update because I know, because I'm sort of inside the organization, I know a lot of interesting and exciting stuff has been happening since our last event. Please, can you give us some updates on the things we're doing?
Yes, it's true. It's been summer. Summer didn't mean that we are resting. We've been full on moving forward. So in a way, you could say that the pieces, everything is finally coming together. Hence also the name of the event today. And we will see many things that are truly exciting. I love them. From the organizational point of view, at the previous events, we spoke more about the organizational structure and strategy and things like that. Today, the most important announcement, I would say, is that between Swarm Alpha and Swarm Beta, Swarm managed to secure all the needed funds to deliver 1.0 version. So we successfully completed our private part of the fundraising, where we were also very pleasantly surprised. But the important thing is we are now unstoppable. So on the organizational side, there shouldn't be any really bigger obstacles towards 1.0. We made also inroads on the legal side. We are good with the regulators. Everything is coming together. So yeah, it's exciting times.
So I know it's unstoppable, but let me stop you right there because I always had this, I don't know, like skepticism about this private sale, and I mean, I'm happy it all worked out like perfectly. But can you please explain why this is like a private sale? Because it seems to go against the nature of what we're trying to do, and I think many people probably have questions about that.
Yes. So the short answer is private fundraising right now is still the only possibility for Swarm to secure funds. And we had to secure the funds in order that that we don't stop. We've been speaking at the previous events, we've been speaking how Swarm is growing from a dev team into organization, part of this graduation process. We didn't speak so much about that. Yes, it was a big challenge also to secure all the funds. Swarm has been working on this for quite a while. So, and compared, we all internally also like it how Ethereum did it back in the day, but times have changed since then. I would argue also Ethereum wouldn't be able to raise it like this today. Regulations changed, laws changed. The 2017 ICO craze, kind of also resulted that people who contribute to projects first want to see private investors join on board because private investors check you and give this seal of approval. So right now, this was the only possible step that we could take. At this point, it's still, we had like also this luxury that it was actually about activating Swarm fans. We got really a cool bunch of investors and builders on Swarm that are supporting us. So this will also help, I think, further growth of Swarm and adoption.
So basically, what my question was like, will there also be a public round?
Yes, there will be.
Can you talk about it?
No, I can't.
Okay, I know. Sorry.
We are still trying to figure out. We are still in talks with the regulators. It's in 2020. It's quite challenging to do a public offering. So, but we want to do it. We want to also here commit to the public because we want to be all inclusive, and only if we come together, we can bootstrap this network. So in this sense, we plan and expect that we will have all the details relatively soon, latest by our next event, Swarm Live.
Okay, and then at least with the grants, and I think we're announcing new grants this evening, but at least with the grants, we are sort of giving back investor money to dApp developers. Is that correct, or is that like a weird way to see it?
I mean, yes, I guess so. I'm now here playing in my head like various scenarios for pro and contras. Definitely, if we speak about the token to start with, because the grants are in the tokens, it's a major portion of the tokens is meant for the network start, for supporting the ecosystem to do this kind of transfer. Here, what it's important is the BUS token, as we spoke, it's not a governance token. So it's a pure utility token. And we also got now this on paper. This is one of other good news, by the way. But in this regard, it's important to know that we are building Swarm together.
Mhm.
And today, also during the event, with the announcements that we are making, this is one of the messages that we want to also put across. We are building this together. And yeah, there will be all kinds of possibilities.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that, but before, during the day, we already had like 2 workshops. The attendance was, I mean, for me at least, it was like, how do you say, it's like more than I was expecting. I was excited to see so many people joining, you know, a workshop to just see, you know, what's new and what is happening. Um, where do I want to go with this? I'm just, I just want to express like
Yes,
it's really
yes. No,
cool.
no, no. It's like very good point actually, because we were all surprised. You know, we spoke before. We were all surprised by this turnout, and this actually shows like also with grants you mentioned. So at Swarm Alpha, we announced first grants. We gave now those grants. It's all online on our blog post, and it's really exciting to see this diversity of projects. The projects that also look beyond blockchain or are in a way Swarm is onboarding them to blockchain. So yes, I think we only started. I'm really curious what we will see in the second wave of grants, the new projects being announced, and yeah, fun times are ahead.
uh, always. So I saw a tweet. I don't know, this week or the week before, where Fair Data Society said like we are going to the next level in our collaboration with Swarm. Is that something you want to touch on now, or do you want to wait because we have a big segment in this event for Fair Data Society?
Yeah, so maybe just this in a sense we will speak more about Fair Data Society later. What is important today uh, in this section, so to speak, is that the things that we are going to present outside of the core development, so how we grow the ecosystem and how we engage other stakeholders, is part of this strategy where we said that we are building a swarm. So and these are the actual steps that we've been announcing, but more on this later.
Okay, cool. Also, during the rehearsal, because yes, people, we rehearse this kind of stuff, it may not look like it, but during the rehearsals, we discussed that there's also like an emphasis on enterprise. And I know within this community and the broader Ethereum community, of course, every time you mention the word enterprise, you probably have half of the people who hate you and half of the people who love you. Can you explain a little bit what we mean by enterprise and why we are giving attention to it, basically?
Well, you know, in a way, enterprise, we want to help enterprise to become fair and ethical. This is in a nutshell. So Swarm, one of the big things with Swarm, it's more than decentralized storage. It's unlocking new business models, and at the same time, we see the business models with misaligned incentives can be considered as root of the cause that we see in the world happening. So in this way, by educating them, by explaining them, there are better ways to do it. You will unlock more value, but at the same time, you will be more ethical and you will be a better offering better services and products. This is what we
So,
try to help.
so
Yes.
for you, the U, like the unity in Plur, also, you know, is going for enterprise. What you basically say is like, let's come together, also companies, corporations.
Yes, I think we as humanity we need to come together, and this means inclusiveness. So if we speak that we want to be inclusive, it means we should be respecting others. We should be respecting other people's freedom, and in
Okay.
this way, we should be also educating that better ways are possible. So we should also be speaking, as Antti mentioned, with governments, and I hope my data organization gives a good word for Swarm with the Finnish government, so to speak. And uh, everybody needs to be part of this discussion because we live together.
I think you're a very nice guy. I would, in the past especially, I would just say like, fuck these corporations, we should just kill them. But I think your point is a way more valid and smart approach, actually. I think this is like the perfect moment to ask Victor to join us, don't you think?
Awesome. Yes, Victor should join, and I will put myself back into Swarm, into the Matrix.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, go
See you
drink
later.
yourself up. Yes. So Victor, if you are here, I would love to see you and hear you, of course.
I am indeed here. Thank you, Michel.
Oh, we have it. So I think you're in a room with several people that are watching or participating in this live stream. So it's kind of important that we don't have like feedback in the audio. So if you can please check that there's no
I can't hear.
microphone and loudspeaker at the same time going on. And also, I don't have video for you.
Sorry, I couldn't. Can you repeat the last question? Sorry.
Okay, this sounds good. No problem at all. So do you want to show yourself also? Because I can't see you, but maybe that's on my side.
Okay.
Are you on Rinke's computer? Is that correct? Okay, yes. Oh, you have a nice background as well. That's lovely. So Victor, I know that like almost like is the camera gonna move like that? Okay. So Victor, I know that. So I have a lot of feedback, but I'm sure that people with you can fix that. So I know that you sneaked into some of the workshops today because I saw you like lurking into what is your thoughts on all the stuff that happened today already?
That was great. It was not deliberate lurking. I was just working beside Edina, and I heard a question which I could answer, so I chipped in. I think it's a lot of great stuff happening. I'm really proud of the team with delivering the beta. It's an amazing achievement, I think.
Okay, so let's dive in. I know I've been asking you this question, but as you know, you will probably have to explain certain concepts again and again and again. Can you please explain again the world computer and what is Swarm's role in that?
Yes, so the word computer. This notion came in with the rise of Ethereum as the Turing complete blockchain. Basically, the founding fathers of Ethereum already imagined the Ethereum public blockchain as just one component of a holy trinity of components, which kind of represent or realize the word computer, that as they call it. The word computer is supposed to be the global infrastructure, the operating system of the World Wide Web. It's a global computing infrastructure in which the blockchain is supposed to be standing for the CPU, the central processing unit, providing a global, secure, and consensual computation. But it also needs to have, in order to provide a proper computational framework, it also needs to provide data storage and data access like a normal local computer on the hard disk, and provides inter-component or inter-node communication services the same way as signals go from one subcomponent of a local computer to another. So in this sense, Swarm aspires to be the global execution environment for web applications. And yes, you heard it well. It aspires to actually provide a full Web3 stack, provide a backend to Web3. And if you think of the Swarm as the operating system of the new World Wide Web, the really centralized web, as it were, then you have to think of Swarm as the whole ecosystem, the whole tooling that makes this web stack potentially possible. And what we're talking about when we're talking about the B client is in particular, or the Swarm core, it's you can think of it as the kernel of the operating system. So it provides the primitives and primitives of the building blocks of the execution environment.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to focus a little bit on, we have these three components, so I'm going to just repeat them. Processing, which is the blockchain, and then we have storage, and then we have the messaging or communication part. It seems to me that one of the bigger things that is happening right now with Swarm is that we actually also are doing this communication layer. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I always thought like this is Whisper, right? In the Ethereum ecosystem,
yes,
Whisper is the... And I think I lost your video, but I'm not sure what's happening.
So yeah, originally as the Holy Trinity was conceived, like Swarm was considered the component for the hard disk of the word computer, and Whisper was meant to be for dark messaging. However, Whisper didn't really happen in many ways. I mean, it kind of stopped its development, and Swarm came to fill in that gap, and basically put up an ambition to realize the entire vision of the word computer, in the sense of extending the Turing complete blockchain to this global computer environment. And communication is a very important component in this, and kind of ironically, the way we hit up on the solutions for private and untraceable communication is almost serendipitous. It seems like it's one of those events which oftentimes happen with Swarm, that a solution to an unexpected problem fell out of the initial elegant and good design. And the same story happened with communication. We have two particular features which we will in detail talk about in the feature section. One is the single owner chunks, which allows feeds, basically off-chain mutable content and temporarily associated, temporarily sequential data from a single user, and that can also serve as the basis for a double communication channel. And the other component is PSS, which is the untraceable node-to-node messaging.
Okay, I'm sorry to just interrupt for a second. It's a technical thing, but because we split the video and the audio, we will have an issue in the live feed. We don't have video for Victor anymore. So if we could go back to the previous view, that would be really cool. Also, but let's just continue. Victor, if you feel up to it, can you please, so we are talking about two topics if we speak about communication. One is PSS, or PST, as we call it, and the other one is feeds. Can you first talk a little bit about PSS and how did we make, communication happen over a storage network?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about one friend of mine told me when he read the book of Swarm, which contains like a very detailed explanation of and specification of these components, he asked me like, "Oh my God, are you not afraid that you expose this great technology and maybe other competitors will just use that and cherry pick this feature and then go around with it?" And the funny thing is that's when I really realized that in order to realize all these features of PSS, you really need Swarm's basic design, the so-called disk model, which we introduced during the alpha event. So it's a distributed immutable storage for chunks. It has various important properties which all are needed for PSS to work. So PSS is the postal system on Swarm, was the service on Swarm. Basically, the idea is here that you disguise messages as chunk traffic, which is transferred relayed via nodes to the network in order to arrive at the local destination where they are stored. So they kind of, you cannot distinguish a message from say a piece of chunk from your encrypted family album, and that's why the messaging is completely untraceable. Due to the forwarding nature of routing, so that pieces of data are passed around via a sequence of forwarding nodes, it also provides ambiguity of the origination, so and therefore kind of anonymous. And of course, the whole thing is encrypted asymmetrically, which means that you can completely obfuscate both the content, the receiver, and the topic. And it can serve as a node-to-node messaging, which is completely untraceable. And has a lot of applications. For example, it can be used as the initial key agreement exchange for subsequent private chat, similarly to a component in the Signal protocol. Or you can use it for all kinds of push notifications the network. So it basically provides a primitive that's completely new and allows for a new paradigm of building application backends on.
Indeed, I think it's a really exciting new thing. If I can, it's basically so that even a node operator doesn't know that a message has passed through his system. So
Correct.
it's really not censorable because you don't even know that a message has been sent.
You cannot know.
Which is sort of brilliant. So the other big thing is single owner chunks, which result into feeds.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about feeds and why we should use that?
Yeah, so single owner chunks as a basic concept is a strange kind of animal. So normally Swarm, the basis of Swarm on the level of disk, Swarm is basically a chunk store, and chunks are fixed size pieces of data with their address being normally with content address chunks. The address of a chunk is deterministic from its content based on a hash function, a special hash function that we use this for. So that means that one bit is changed, then the data address changed. That means complete integrity protection. Now, single owner chunks provide a little bit different integrity protection. It's integrity protection protected by the signature of their owner, and the addresses are legitimated by having a kind of pre-agreed addressing pattern, addressing scheme, which means that if you hash a certain ID with the public key, then you get an address which you are entitled to write in. So it's like as if part of the address space was allocated to individuals owning a public key, and therefore the integrity, the signature that you can only do with the possession of your private key can provide validation and integrity protection to that chunk. And using this method, basically single owner chunks can provide the means to for example, define like sequences, like define a potential feed where a single owner can post, say, temporally sequential but related content or regularly updated material or any kind of truth be it like a Twitter feed or just subsequent say you can even represent the blockchain with it.
Yes, but please don't go there yet. I think this is a perfect topic for the Ask Me Anything, Ask Me Anything section later in this program. I only have time to ask you one more question, so I'm looking at my list, which would be the most interesting one. I think this one would be interesting. So you have said about Swarm that it's GitHub meets AWS.
Yes.
Yes, explain that, please, because it sounds so exciting. But
yeah, and I recently tried to coin a term for that. I mean, this is a bit experimental. Tried to coin a term like open resource, this paradigm, which kind of capitalizes on the recognition that the open source movement, so being able to fork and modify code, unleashed an unprecedented improvement in the security, stability, and feature set of software applications. So the fact that you can leverage an entire open source developer community, and therefore like GitHub and the likes, plus the notion of open source on the social side, really brought a big revolution. However, it still left one bottleneck in the story that would allow that would enable a truly adaptive and user-driven adaptive development for applications. And that bottleneck was the fact that even that you can modify code in order to touch the same user base and or even deploy your modified code, you still had to go through a centralized bottleneck. Basically, a single gatekeeper was the company that operated that piece of software, especially if you're talking about like networks software. and with Swarm, this era is gone. So with Swarm, we really want to provide a global execution environment. So basically, a permissionless deployment environment for fork dApps. So you cannot only fork code now, but you can fork whole applications. And basically, in the same sense as Yogi mentioned in the My Data World, applications will just connect to your personal data, and also with your identity, the switching cost would be relatively zero. So it would, I predict that this would probably start a Cambrian explosion of different dApps and how the different dApps combine and how they are developed. Because basically with Swarm's zero cost hosting, so you can transfer the cost of deploying an app to basically your users, which means both automatic scaling and also less upfront capital investment to start businesses, which is an immense change in social circumstances.
Victor, I feel like I'm 7 years old again, and my mom is calling me inside and tells me that I have to stop playing outside with my friends because Miha, our stage manager, is asking me to round this up because we have so much more to talk about with so many more people. Let's continue this conversation, please, at a later stage, because it's so interesting to see how like a JavaScript library could actually make money for a developer. Thank you so much, Victor. I hope.
Thank you, Michel.
I want to see you again in the AMA later, of course. Thank you, Victor, and the Swarm HQ group, which is really cool for a decentralized network that we have an HQ. So next up in this event, we are going to what I would call the main event. We are coming live from the same COVID-19 bubble where Rinke and Victor are staying in together. Rinke, I don't know if you're ready yet to join the conversation. He's pointing at something. Is that me?
Oh, I just need to put on my audio, right?
Yes, that's really cool if you, yes. So Rinke, I would say, I'm just going to hand it over to you. Please MC us until the beta release.
Sorry, can you please repeat that question?
So, sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, whether you could repeat that question.
Oh, I just asked you if you could lead us into the release of Swarm Beta.
Of course, sure, that's what I'm here for.
I know, right? Go ahead.
All right, I'll share my screen. Yeah, as you probably got, we had some of technical issues here at the Swarm headquarters in Budapest. But I think now is everything okay? Yeah? Okay. All right, so the B beta release. In this presentation, I'll be talking about the past, what I've been doing up until now, the present, what did we release, and the future, what are we going to release. A bit about me, my name is Rinke. You can find me on Acneer on Telegram, GitHub, Beehive, or I don't know, even RuneScape or other online games. I'm the product owner for the Swarm team and a researcher, mostly for the incentives. And sometimes I also act as a developer, but well, not really. So about the past. I have a little bit of comparison between Swarm and Bee, because for some people who are already longer in this project, it might be confusing, because what is Swarm and what is Bee? Well, Swarm is the node software for the old Swarm, right? And Bee is the node software for the Swarm network, right? So you have the Swarm network right now. And the Swarm network comprises of multiple Bee nodes. But in the past, and that's a bit confusing, we used to call both the node software and the network Swarm. So forget that. Right now, the Bee is the node software and the Swarm is the network. That's it. So in the old Swarm, and that's the node Swarm software was built on top of DevP2P, which is a networking layer. Amongst others, Ethereum used that. But Ethereum as an ecosystem is also moving towards libP2P, which is really a much better more advanced networking layer. The Swarm codes used to have a lot of development and research. We've been working on it for more than 5 years, 4 years, I should say. But really, after working 4 years and iterating a lot of code, it became clear to us at the point that with that source code, we probably wouldn't be able to release production-ready software. So we rebooted in March this year, and we decided to start building the B node, the software B. And really the goal of the B node, we're doing it for the second time, but the goal is to have a production network with production grade code. So it's already said the production development on the Swarm node stopped in March 2020. And well, the B node started development in the end of 2019. With the Swarm node, DevOps used to be, and integration testing used to be somewhat of a second thought, whereas in the B node, DevOps and integration testing is an integral part of the B project. And because of this, we can ensure much better performance and stability of the network. If you're working for 4 years on one software project, even if you have advancing insight, it becomes increasingly difficult to apply that. So with the B node, we had the unique opportunity to apply a lot of advancing insight. And even though we've been working only for a couple of months right now on the B node, B is already feature complete compared to the Swarm, and many of those features have had significant improvements. So a couple of months ago, we released the B Alpha. And the B Alpha, as Victor already said, was mostly a distributed, immutable store of chunks. And the disk is really the fundament of the Swarm network. And the B nodes have been running with the Alpha release, a network which has been continuously live since we released the B node. Well, of course, on the disk, you cannot do a lot. You can upload and download chunks, but chunks are not interesting, right? You really want to have something to show and to demo, which is why during the Alpha release, we released a feature to upload and download files as well. Oh yeah, by the way, I put a heart here, not only because I love the Alpha release, but also because I believe that it's the heart of the Swarm. Then to now, the beta release. Little bit of a comparison between the beta release and the Alpha release. So the Alpha release contained a lot of lower level protocols, and those are inherently not really demo ready, right? We only had files to upload. So the Alpha release had a lot of lower level protocols, which you couldn't demo, but which was essential, was a fundamental, and not so many higher level features. In this release, it's exactly the opposite. So you see there will be a lot of features, but there's not so much advancements on the lower level protocol because those were already built in the Alpha release. And I want to acknowledge the whole team, Janos, the tech lead, everybody from the dev team, our DevOps team, and also all the devs who are not currently in the team. Of course, everybody worked extremely hard and well to put off B beta. The road is bumpy, the features are experimental, but really no single person out of this list could have been missed, because without you, we couldn't have released what we released today. So thanks everybody. PPS, also thanks to everybody who helped me with the last minute slide preparations. And also, of course, Swarm is much more than only devs. So there have been amazing work by people every day to support the Swarm, from operations, marketing, communication, research, and legal. And Edina, you're there, thanks. All right. So with the B beta, your node now contains the required features needed to develop and launch a wide array of applications on top of the Swarm network. So we really invite you right now to try it out. All right, and all the features. First of all, we have utilities, tools, and features to build unstoppable applications. We have the Swarm bandwidth incentives, essential for the self-sustainability of the network. We have protection against loss of chunks, and I'll go into what exactly that is. And we have a couple of UX, user experience improvements. You can check out right now already the release. It has been released about 3 hours ago right now. on github.com/ethersphere/b. All right, so utilities, tools, and features to build unstoppable applications. First of all, manifest. Manifest specifies some sort of a mapping from paths to documents, which allows URI-based addressing. Why do we need this? Well, to map a file system directory trees on Swarm, serve as a routing table, as a sitemap to access websites, and support arbitrary key value stores on Swarm. That's a lot. Manifest really allow many higher level data structures to be built on top of Swarm. So why is this so cool? We support multiple manifest implementations next to each other, and also the default Manta Ray offers logarithmic operations optimized for large directories, such as, for example, Wikipedia. And I have a small video to show this. This video was made by Janusz a couple of days ago. So you see Janusz creating here a Vue.js application. He's now cloning the repository. Right, here it is. You see the application. Whoop. Here is the application. So he's going to say, welcome to the Vue.js app served by Swarm. And Vue.js, for those who don't know it, is a very popular framework to build applications on the web. All right. Here's going to tar to bundle all those files into one file. And he's going to upload the tar file to the Swarm via the dirs directories. He gets here the reference. And this reference you can use on the BCC endpoint to, browse unstoppable websites or applications. That's it. Thanks, Janusz, for the video. And you can check out this video. Oops, it's below. But anyways, you can check out this video on our YouTube channel, Ethereum Swarm. Okay, the other one is name resolution. So we're using the Ethereum name service or compatible to resolve human readable name names into Swarm addresses. This is needed because we need to map immutable addresses to mutable content to provide the integrity protection on the blockchain, and also to provide for human memorable addresses. Because let's be fair, nobody can remember a Swarm address, right? Well, it's very cool that we don't force you to use any blockchain in particular to resolve names. We recommend Ethereum, but feel free to use any other EVM compatible blockchain, such as RSK, to resolve names. Single owner chunks. Well, Victor already spoke about it just before me, but basically in Swarm, we have two types of chunks. The first one is content address chunks, and the second one is single owner chunks. Single owner chunks are really one of a kind because they enable off-chain mutable content to serve as a basis of feeds, representing regularly updated content from a single source. It's so cool to have this because in previous Swarm, a more constrained type of single owner chunks was exposed, and this was a feed. On top of the single owner chunks, you can build feeds, but many more options right now are possible. So unleash the creativity. Seek in content. This is random access into a file, skipping to a given offset. It sounds technical, but basically it allows you to consume media resources on Swarm without downloading them first. It's basically you navigate to the Swarm address, and in your browser you'll be shown a video player so that you can play it. And cool thing about this, really, what I think is that this one was a user request. And David HQ requested this feature in our Telegram channel, and it was implemented within 2 weeks. So please let this be a motivation that you can also join and request your features. Then encryption. This is to store confidential content on Swarm, which we can only decipher if you have access to the secret, the decryption key. We need this because not all the information should be public. And the cool thing about this is that you could do selective disclosure. So if you decrypt your website, for example, and you only want to disclose part of this website, you'll be able to do it with the encryption which Swarm provides inside the B node. Then PSS, also about this we already spoke. But releasing with B, we're releasing PSS, which is the Posted Service over Swarm. Well, secret messaging is really a core enabler of many applications of the web. So the cool thing about this is really that it offers confidential, anonymous, untraceable, disguised as chunk traffic, automatic mailboxing, and we can do this because we build PSS on top of the disk, and because of this, PSS actually inherits many of the good properties of the disk. Also, we're releasing the support for an external signing, and we have been trying it out ourselves with Clef, but any other external signing in theory could be used. And really this is needed to manage your private keys, such that the B node doesn't directly have access to your keys and your funds. Well, we do this because we want to follow the best practices in security. And of course, we also preparing for the production with bandwidth incentives on mainnet, so real money, right? So the cool thing about this is Clef is a project from within the Ethereum ecosystem. And of course, we wholeheartedly support this. Then about the bandwidth incentives. And Ralph, are you here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he is here.
Cool.
I will stop sharing my screen so you can take over.
So, one moment, just let me prepare the thing here.
So, okay, there you go.
So, okay, I hope that you can now see my screen. So, I have no slides, but I will give you a bit of demo of those things that are now in the new release with the incentives. So, basically, the idea is that nodes, they should pay for their own bandwidth, and we account for this in two places. On the one hand, when we retrieve files, on the other hand, when we actually push files into the network. At the same time, the nodes who are forwarding the traffic, so like in retrieval, who are helping out getting the file to you, or in pushing, who are helping out getting the file to the destination, they should make a profit. And the thing that makes this is the swap accounting, where basically peers, they keep a tab with each other about what the balance is, like how much bandwidth did the other peer consume, and then they have a settlement protocol to even out bigger differences in this balance. So if I'm really a lot in debt because I consumed a lot more than I provide to another peer, I would use a payment to even things out again. But of course, doing payments is not so tricky, and the obvious way is blockchain, but doing small payments on the blockchain is not nice either. So we're using an off-chain payment system, the Swap checkbook, which is basically a unidirectional payment channel. And this is one of the new features that is live now in the new release. And so I will now start a B node on an empty directory. Because we are now using a blockchain-based settlement layer, our B node also has to be connected to a blockchain backend node. And by default, if you just start B, it will look for a blockchain node on your local network, on your local host at the standard port. But if you don't have a node running locally, you can specify a remote one. So all of the Swarm incentive infrastructure is deployed on the Goerli testnet from Ethereum. And yeah, I'm using here an Infura endpoint. I'm also using the debug API enable so that we can see a bit in the debug API later on. So I will now start this, and because this is a new B directory, it will generate a new private key and therefore also a new Ethereum address, which of course is not funded. So it will tell us that we can't actually do anything, because in the very beginning, what we have to do is we have to deploy this checkbook contract. You see something? Okay. At the very beginning, you have to deploy the checkbook contract, and for this you need both Goerli Ether for the gas, but also the BCC token on Goerli, which is not the real BCC token, but it's a test token that's used for now. And to get things started, we have set up a faucet. It's faucet.eswarm.org, where I'm going to go now. So I'm going to paste an address in here, and there is a captcha where I have sometimes those kind of puzzles. And yeah, now this faucet will send us both Ether, but also the BCC. And this will take a while because these are now really blockchain transactions. And I think the block time on Goerli is 15 seconds, but we can try to start again and see if it works already. No, so the funds have not arrived yet. So we will have to wait a bit longer for this. But now we see that the funds have arrived and the node is starting to deploy the checkbook. It tells us the transaction, and now it has one in it. On the very first startup, it will also send a bunch of BCC token into the checkbook so that you are immediately liquid to do stuff. And only once we have a checkbook do we actually connect to the network. And we can now look at the debug API to actually monitor or look at our checkbook. And we can look at the balance, for example, that we have. And here we have two kind of balances. We have the total balance, which is the amount of tokens that are actually on the checkbook. But what's going to happen as we consume traffic is that we're going to issue these checks, which don't do anything in the blockchain until they're actually cached. But still, we need to make sure that we don't overspend, which is why we have an available balance, which is kind of like the part of the balance that we have not yet used for anything. Cool. And our node is now running, and we could try to query some content. And what we should be able to see now is that as this node connects, it starts to fetch data. We can look at our swap balances, where we can see how the balances changes with our peers. So for every peer, we have this balance, and for most peers here, it's a negative, because negative means we owe them something, and we owe them something because we're currently downloading this video here. And so the negative balance is going to increase. And at some point, it will get to the point where we are so much in debt that we need to settle. So I'm not going to wait for this here. Instead, I'm going to go to this other node here, which has been running a while already, and where we already had some settlements. And what we can see then here is that we have issued checks for this off-chain checkbook, because this node pushed a video into the network, and therefore it consumed resources, and it needed to pay for this. And so it sent those checks in order to even out the balance again. Unfortunately, I don't have a node currently which has actually earned money, because all the nodes that I've used with the new network was either downloading files or pushing files, which are both actions that cost you money. Whereas if you want to earn money, it's basically good to do nothing actively and instead let traffic flow through you, so that you get part of the reward during the forwarding. Cool. I'm going to check here the balances, but I think this is a rather small video, which is why we're not really going to see much of the change here. We also have a couple of endpoints available for like querying the checks for the peers individually. If you have actually received the check, you can also cash it out on the blockchain via a specific cash out operation, which is the point when we actually realize the profit that we made. And we also have endpoints for like withdrawing from your checkbook, depositing into it, and this kind of stuff that you need. Maybe also interesting, there's a more general settlement endpoint, where we can get this in a more compact view. And most importantly, we can also see like the sum of the things. And so we see we sent a lot of settlement because we consumed a lot of resources, but this node hasn't actually earned anything yet because it's still quite new in the network. And since the network is very young, it's probably the only node which has really pushed data into it. Yeah, and I think that's all I wanted to show here for now.
Wow, Ralph, that's amazing. Thanks a lot for this demo. And we are sitting here and watching with amazement at what you just demoed, and really genuinely this is amazing.
Yeah, Rinke, so I know I'm too early, but I'm just to break into this thing, but I just want to say, like, it's like maybe one of the first times I'm like really lost for words, like seeing this. I see this for the first time, this thing, and I totally agree on this is really amazing. I feel like sometimes I feel like we don't realize enough what we actually have built here or what we are doing.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe this is a call to action. If you are watching this and your fingers are itching because you want to make a sleek looking dashboard, then you should do so. All right. I see you looking, Michel. Maybe your fingers are itching to start making it.
Well, my fingers are itching to actually do other things than dashboards, but yes.
Yeah, try that.
I mean, I have to focus on emceeing this event, of course, but yeah, this opens up so many. It's very inspiring, to say the least. Yes. But so sorry, I totally interrupted because I had to tell you guys that this is truly amazing stuff to see.
Yeah.
So, but please, you have to finish your presentation, I think.
Yeah, I mean, because we're not finished yet with the amount of features.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Thanks, Ralph. All right, so what I also mentioned is that the B beta right now has a couple of features to protect against chunk flows. So really the first basic feature here is what we call local pinning. And basically local pinning is to ensure that certain chunks will be always available via your node. So basically it puts off the garbage collector for certain chunks, and well, those chunks will be available via your node. This is really elemental because it ensures persistence, at least for yourself and anybody who accesses content via your Swarm node. Of course, that's not enough because we want content to be globally available. So we have the mechanism, what we call global pinning, which is really some sort of a way which ensures that downloaders can signal to local pinners that certain content is missing. So those local pinners can re-upload that again. So the incentives for local pinners to participate in this can be various. It can be because they like the content themselves or because they have been paid to re-upload. But really the crucial thing which we are adding here is the possibility for signaling that content is missing and for re-uploading it again. Well, why? This is really the fallback recovery mechanism to ensure that at least content is potentially always available in the network. And you can already use it right now if you're, for example, developing a dApp and you don't want this dApp to go offline because Swarm forgets things inherently. You can use global pinning. We also have red listing, also known as blacklisting, but I won't use that word anymore from now on, to put a certain node on a red list and automatically adjust your behavior towards them. This is essential punishment, basically to incentivize collaboration and to discourage misbehavior. Then we also have a couple of user experience improvements. And first of all, we have all new documentation. And for this, I believe Dan is also on the live stream to show us around. Dan, are you here?
I am here.
Right.
The host needs to unstop my video though, please. If that's okay. Hi. Hey, Rinka.
Hi, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm very well, very well. Great to hear about all the features. Yes, I feel a bit outstaged by Ralph's amazing demonstration there. So great to see that stuff. He's done an amazing job. But if you guys also want to see it and play with it and do it for yourselves, then you can check out our new documentation. I actually went out with the summer release, but we've updated it. So you'll see if you go to docs.aidswarm.org, they'll give you hopefully very clear explanation of how to get started, run your own B node and start earning BZZ tokens. Yeah, so that's about it really. There's not too much more to show, but do get in touch with any feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know how you get on.
Yeah. All right, then. Thanks a lot for that. And, you know, short but powerful, right? Because without documentation, how can people start using the B node or even understand what's happening? So thanks for putting this together, Dan. All right, I'll share again my screen for the last parts of my presentation. I'm almost done now, I promise. All right, so the UX improvements, we have the whole new documentation. Very importantly, we have significant performance improvements, both for uploads and downloads. As I mentioned in my previous presentation here, we always prioritize good architecture and we do optimizations secondly. It was possible to do it right now. One dev day, so I don't know, try out something, and because we have a good architecture, optimizations naturally fall out. And really, we haven't been spending a lot of time on optimizations, but we have done 25 times better approximately. So this is only the beginning. You can also follow the status of your upload, specifically useful if you're uploading a big file. It might take a couple of minutes, even an hour if it's really big. And then tags come in handy because you can follow the status of your uploads. And the cool thing about this is that dev developer, somebody developing on top of Swarm, can make with this feature progress bars to give you more information and the ability to react, or at least to look at something nice while you wait. Print config is a feature which you can quickly use to find out the current configuration of your B node. And yeah, it's really cool because you can never forget if you set the right environment variable and all the configuration is in one place. Then we have an install script. It's really a shell script to make it easy to install your B client on all the operated operating system. We have Linux, Windows, and macOS. And yeah, that's just convenience to use this install scripts. All right, that's all for now about the features, but I promise to talk about three things, which is the past, the present, and the future. So future comes right now. in the future, first of all, we're going to focus on improving stability and performance. Because let's be fair, we only just started with this, and kinks are reasonably to be expected, which is a complex piece of software as Swarm. So mainly stability, we're going to start immediately, and performance when time allows. Improving the usability, we have a couple of ideas how we can improve the usability of the Swarm nodes. But really what for us is the highest priority is if you are trying out the B nodes and you have requests for usability improvements, we prioritize them. Then lastly, storage incentives is really the second leg of the incentives of the Swarm network. So the storage incentives has been thought through already, and we started to plan the implementations. We'll probably release storage incentives in 2 phases, where the first phase is being spam protection, and the second phase is the distribution of the income. Storage incentives allows and encourages nodes to join, be compensated for the contribution, and ensure that the rights to write to the disk are fairly allocated. Security audits, of course, we're going to soon have real tokens of value managed by the B nodes, and we don't want any funds at risk or at more risk than is needed. So we're working together with some highly renowned security audit firms to have a second look at our code base to make sure that it's as best as we can. Of course, you never know for sure, but we will try our best to don't put any funds at risk. And lastly, we are always wanting to work with you. So users and feedback, I can't often say it often enough. We need you to start building on Swarm, provide us feedback and steer the development. Also, the core team, we are looking for high-profile quality assurance engineers who can support the team with quality assurance, right? So if you think you can work with us or you have something to provide, you can reach out to us on Telegram, the Orange Lounge, or on the Beehive. And I think this is really my last slide. Yes, it is. So thanks for having me here. Thanks for the time. Thanks for the amazing opportunity to work with everybody of you, and I hope to see you soon.
Well, thank you so much, Rienke. That was really amazing to see. Yeah, it's really cool. I can't wait to see you back at the AMA later. I'm sorry, dear audience, I'm a little bit lost for words because I truly am impressed with what I just witnessed. I think most of us don't realize what this means for the sort of revolution we're trying to propagate here. So next up is a little bit a weird topic, I think, because in this space, there's a lot of focus, of course, in making sure that data can be persisted, and we are doing all we can to do that, right? Like with incentives and technological solutions. Yet, the next topic is all about deleting data from a decentralized network. You would say this is weird. It's coming from the brilliant mind of Danny, who is sitting in the same bubble as Rienke and Victor. So Danny, please go ahead, and I hope you can explain why and how you would delete things from our network. I don't have audio for you for now. Is it just me, or are we lose, or don't we have audio?
Yeah, I think it's good now. Do you hear
Okay,
us?
now we have audio. Thank you so much.
So the Dream protocol, which is not part of the beta release, but may well find its way into one of the future releases, achieves something that many people, very much including ourselves, believe to be impossible and a contradiction in terms, namely deleting information from a network that provides permissionless publishing. So how is it not a contradiction? Well, first of all, not every information can be deleted, but only the kind of information that was marked as such, marked deletable during the upload. And secondly, not anybody gets to delete that information, but only those authorized during the upload. So if you want to upload something deletable, then it will be deletable by those who are authorized to delete it. So this is very good for multiple reasons, one of which is compliance, full compliance with regulations and user expectations. So we might mention GDPR here and people's natural worries about their personal data. And secondly, because some information has a limited time to live. So what does it even mean to delete something from a distributed storage? Does that mean that everybody scrubs it off their hard disks? Well, not really, because you cannot force people to do such things. That's the whole point of Swarm, right? So what it actually means that, well, the first thing that it means that outside of the window between it was uploaded and when it was deleted, the methods by which you can access them don't work. So if you click on a link that points to some deletable information after it was deleted, you will not get that piece of information. But it's not just that, it's more than that. It means that unless you have accessed this information when it was available and paid at least as much as is required to store it someplace else, be it your hard drive or re-uploading it to Swarm again or something like that. So if you haven't paid that much, then the information cannot be reconstructed from what's on Swarm after it has been deleted. And that actually happens to be the most that can be achieved in this regard, because of course, when the information is available, anybody can download it and store it. But the nice thing that Dream Protocol achieves, again, is that unless you go this far, the information will not be accessible. And for anybody who didn't access the information during the window when it was actually accessible, it won't be possible to reconstruct it from any data on Swarm at all. And the way this is structured is that there only needs to be a number of reliable nodes, a small number of reliable nodes that actually follow the protocol and don't make some costly side functions by archiving information that was meant to be deleted, then the security guarantees of the Dream Protocol are actually achieved. So that's what the Dream Protocol does. And I think that it's kind of a research breakthrough, and we will be very happy to include this functionality in one of the upcoming Swarm releases. It's currently spec'd out. There are still some debates about the tiny details, but when they are resolved, it will go into implementation. So that's it. Any questions, perhaps?
Well, maybe, thank you so much for this explanation. Maybe we can bundle all the questions in the AMA, if that's okay for you. To our audience, I want to say that in this Zoom call, there's a Q&A button somewhere. Yes, it's at the bottom of the screen, so you can just click this and ask your questions throughout this event, and we will answer them at the end. Danny, thank you so much again for your vision. And I will see you soon in the AMA. Next up in our show here, our event, we're gonna talk about enterprise. As Gregor said, like, we are trying to, how do you say this? We are trying to include as many players and partners as possible to achieve the goals we want to achieve. And enterprise is one of those. Sorry, I'm a little bit lost here for a second. Tjeerd is gonna start with, Tjeerd, are you there? Because
yes, hello, Michel. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I see Daniel already showing himself. I think you are later in the panel, but I'm not sure. Sure, is that correct?
So I should go ahead, right?
Yes, so all the
Yeah.
people that will be in the panel later, you can still disable your camera, because first we're going to listen to, thank you so much, we're going to listen to Shirt, who is going to tell us all about the Swarm Enterprise Workgroup and his white paper. I'll give it to you, Shirt.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. So I have shared my screen. Hopefully you see it. Probably you do, because my screen has changed. And I will go now into presenter mode. So in this talk, we will address some enterprise aspects of Swarm, as we believe Swarm can help in regaining sovereignty and trust in the data economy, both by individuals as well as companies. Since the last event, a Swarm Enterprise Workgroup was assembled to study the aspects of Swarm relevant to enterprises, which of course also applies to other organizations of different sizes. Why enterprises? You have already touched upon the topics. So the problems we see in the data economy today arise mostly out of existing business models and misaligned incentives. And Swarm enables new data business models with ethical services and fair distribution of value. So adoption by enterprise is key to facilitate changes if you want to build a fairer data economy. The result of the work is a white paper tackling several different topics and that is now open for comments. The contents of the white paper will also be published on the Swarm Enterprise Hub, due to become available for the Swarm Live event. And I will give you a sneak preview to get a feeling of the topics handled. So this is how the page would look. And sorry. The goal of the hub is to hold resources for enterprises interested in adoption of Swarm. Basically, they should follow a path leading towards a fair data economy where value from data is fairly distributed between all the stakeholders. The prerequisites for reaching it are interoperability and regulatory compliance. This has all been talked about before in this event. New business models are possible with the self-sovereign cloud that enables scalability and zero downtime, while also moving the costs of hosting to the user. So the subjects tackled in more detail in the white paper are actually what are the basic problems with the data economy, how Swarm can play a catalyst for change, the privacy enabling features of Swarm that will play a major role in regaining trust of individuals, tackling GDPR aspects of decentralized storage, and finally, examples of apps working on top of Swarm. So a bit of a teaser for now. Maybe if you're an enterprise, what may be the 4 top issues you see with joining the data economy that Swarm can help you solve. Maybe you are paying for scaling your apps and data storage while getting no revenue from them. Swarm will let you offload those costs to the users if you adopt new business models. Maybe you have ideas but no access to personal data. Using Swarm, individuals will have their personal data in their own secure personal data stores, which they will open up to you or make available through trusts and European data spaces. Maybe you're worried about data leaks and privacy. Offload all the app's data to personal storage of individuals, only accessing it when needed, and adopt the decentralized app concept. Or maybe you think that a couple of large players are controlling the data scene and they will not let you into the spoils. By giving individuals a place to store their data, large data providers will no longer be monopolies, and a fairer data economy will be able to emerge. So the tagline here is Swarm brings trust to the data economy. How can we come together with the efforts? You can give feedback to the white paper, or you can join further efforts of the workgroup tackling specific use cases, one of the first being the European data spaces in the context of Swarm. Please contact us via email to get access to white paper and or collaborate. Next, a quick thank you note to the collaborators on the Enterprise Workgroup. So thank you, Alexander, Jing, and Dixon. And thank you all for this opportunity, and contact us if you would like to contribute. The email is here on the screen, enterprise@itswarm.org. So thank you very much, and back to you, Michelle.
Well, sure, that wasn't an amazingly efficient presentation. I'm quite sure that you can maybe in the chat groups share that email address where people can find you to collaborate on this. Next up, we're going to have a little panel, which is always fun because it's a lot of people hopefully not talking, how do you say this, like at the same time, but they will be moderated by Antonio Gonzalo. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Antonio is a tech entrepreneur and was working in Telefonica. I think that's the Spanish telephone operator. He was working in Telefonica's R&D department for 10 years. He's running product management for emerging technologies and is now managing operations at Swarm. And he also runs the Ethereum community in Madrid, and that's my favorite destination, except for my home in Antwerp. So Antonio, I'm so happy to at least be a little bit in Madrid by hearing you talk. So please take it away with the panel.
Thank you so much, Michel. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Chert for presenting the paper, and kudos to all the contributors to make that a reality. So today's panel will be to talk about with some brave visionaries who are using already Swarm to unlock a fair data economy businesses and applications in the application world. You've just heard some beautiful talks about data and some amazing demos, but the starting point to really make an impact visible is here in applications, in real use cases, and and making it reality in the real world. And this is a path that, well, we all have to walk through, so this is why we are creating this working group called Swarm Enterprise Hub to collaborate and push further together. So this afternoon, I'm delighted to present you a panel of 4 participants to talk about all this. I will introduce them in alphabetical order because it's always fair, which is, first of all, I'd like to introduce Alexander Partin, which is the Chief Privacy Counsel of MidHub, working on the project of building an SSI platform, member of International Association of Privacy Professionals, and 15 years experience in legal profession. Alexander, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, colleagues.
Hello. We have as well Chert Adlin, who you just saw with the background in statistics, enabling fair data economy on the data fund project since its inception. He's also part of the research efforts in the Swarm team. Chert, hello.
Hi, hello.
We have as well Danik Thakrisson, CEO and co-founder at Scaleout, creating a federated and decentralized machine learning system, and recipient, by the way, of one of our first grants. Hello, Daniel.
Hello. Good to be here.
Nice to have you here. And finally, last but not least, we have Dixon Su, who is a software engineer at Fujitsu Limited, Chief Evangelist of Personium, which is the only open source personal data store platform in Japan. And currently he's leading the global My Data movement with Fujitsu. Hello, Dixon. Nice to have you here, and thank you for the effort.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you guys. It's already a bit late over there. Okay, so first and foremost, and so that everybody hears a bit more of you, I would like you to ask each participant for a brief description of the project you're working on and how do you using Swarm to help achieve your objectives. So Dixon, since you're on the screen, if you want to start, for instance.
Yes, as you just announced that I work for Fujitsu, and the Personium here, it's the open source product that created by Fujitsu, and we're asking for people who can help us out. And basically, we provide the proof of concept for clinics and like financial background or advertising industry, like huge industry in Japan. And also currently, we are kind of working with Vasto Group in Helsinki project, in the City of Helsinki project. And we think that with Swarm, because we don't want to create all the things, reinvent the wheels. So with Swarm, we can kind of achieve storage interoperability quickly. So instead of doing our own stuff, we can do storage and give all the things to Swarm, and then we can kind of concentrate on permission management on the PDS. And also, I think it aligned with the My Data Operators ideas that it has to be interoperable with all different levels. So we will kind of off-shoulder our development to Swarm so that it will take care of itself. And then we kind of concentrate only on the part that we're good at, like permissions and also building the infrastructure and everything else. So thank you for inviting me, Stuart. Thanks.
It's a pleasure.
That's all.
Thank you. Daniel, if you want to keep on with the talk.
Yeah, sure. So we are in machine learning, and machine learning is really about learning from data. So the problem we're working with is that most companies, they cannot use the data they already have. Mainly there are privacy concerns. There are also regulatory constraints that we'll probably talk more about. And there are also many practical issues like just bandwidth or network access or many other things.
Mm-hmm.
So we are developing a solution for federated learning. And in federated learning, what you do is you move the training of machine learning models to where the data is. So you avoid collecting all data in one place. And this solves what we usually call the data access challenge in AI. And we're using this technology today in companies such as AstraZeneca. We're working with GE Healthcare that is now called Cytiva, and with Swiss Airlines as well. And what we're working towards is really about enabling machine learning, I would say, in a Web3 world where compute and data is distributed. So, and the first problem where we are using Swarm right now is to enable trust and collaboration in something we call federated learning alliances. And that is, how do you get different participants together to collaborate, even if they don't maybe fully trust each other? And so the path that we're going towards right now, sort of the path of least resistance, is to use open source software so that everyone can audit code fully. But then we're also using Swarm-based audit trails so that everyone can fully follow the process of training one of these collaborative machine learning models, so that there's a really an audit trail or a track record over everything that happened, even if everyone does not have full insight into the training process of these machine learning models. So that's sort of where we are right now, and then we're moving towards like a more and more decentralized system.
Very interesting. I got a question for you, but I'll go for that afterwards. Which is well, not just one, but that's all right. So then, Alexander, please, if you want to speak about MidHub and what's its mission and how do you use Swarm, please.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, same as Swarm, MidHub platform aims at bringing back to the person the real control over his or her personal data, and in such a way that the person has a high quality and safe tool to provide the companies with the personal data on a temporary basis for different purposes. The MidHub main concept, I mean the user's control over the personal data and its secure processing, actually became possible only with the development of blockchain, smart contracts, cryptography, and in particular Swarm as a secure and reliable decentralized storage of personal data. We build MidHub on the basis of trust and transparency, so the source code for all our key platform applications will be actually open after the public beta, and it will be open for analysis and collaboration. But at the same time, the platform participants won't need to rely on trust only, as the smart contracts will guarantee on our platform that all the processes work in accordance with rules. One of the feature of MidHub would be that the personal data which were uploaded to MidHub by the users will actually be verified by the special validators. And this also should increase the level of trust to this data from the companies which obtain consent from the users for its processing. And actually, besides, it also solves the KYC task for the companies and users in a fair, secure, and more efficient way. As a lawyer, I'm a privacy counsel, I should say that the platform, same as Swarm, is developed with the privacy by design principle in mind, meaning that we closely look on compliance with personal data rules and in particular GDPR. And we aim at building a decentralized global system of document management, which is free from third-party impact and is entrusted with blockchain technology and digital signatures. Thanks.
Very cool. And finally, Chert, if you'd like to present this briefly what DataFound is and the goal of the project. Chert, we're muted.
Yes, hi, hello, thank you. So I think the Data Fund was already presented at previous events, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, we're also all about privacy and enabling similar things as all the rest of the projects. We also contributed with code to the Fair Data Society with the federal projects, and we are avid supporters of the initiative. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's talk about business. I'm sure you've already heard the sentence. If you're not, well, just Michelle just started to talk with that. If you're not paying, you're the product being sold. This is a problem of incentives. Again, as we all know, we have been selling our data, our privacy, basically our freedom, very cheap, arguably very cheap, to a few companies. And the paradigm has become so big that we actually consciously have to make efforts to avoid being tracked. So the question is, are business models sustainable without our data being taken from us? To put it another way, how can a small app, how can a small developer create a strategic advantage with data against behemoths such as Google or Facebook? Who wants to answer this? It's about business models.
Maybe I could just start with this. So there's an initiative of the European Union. Actually, the European Union has a data strategy, which was released. The document was released at the beginning of this year, and the data strategy is talking about data spaces. So the European Union imagines that these vertical data spaces will be established. For example, one of them will be a skills data space, one of them will be a health data space, and so on. And in these data spaces, data will flow freely, as is labor and materials flowing through the European Union. You know, the same principle would apply, and anyone could, I mean, not anyone, but companies could join and leverage the data in there to bootstrap this equal opportunity for all companies. So I think this is an idea that we have to embrace. They have given us a hand, and we have to enable this with Swarm. Swarm is, of course, the perfect platform to do this, I believe. And maybe I can now stop and give someone else the opportunity to talk. Thank you.
Thanks, Gert. Yes, Daniel?
Yeah, so I can jump in, and I absolutely think that it's possible to find business models without having our data taken from us. And it's in a way that's really how we approach this. So what we are doing is we're enabling how you really monetize learnings of data, not actually selling the data itself. So that's kind of one path that's possible to take. That's what we're doing. But I also don't think that it's quite important to think that it's not viable to think that I can create a small app, or as a private person, I will be able to monetize my data, and like Facebook or Google, they should give me a lot of money, because in those cases, for us individually, there is not that much data for each of us. So I think that what we might land in, so where data maybe covers the infrastructure costs, that's maybe where we are in some of these like mass market applications. Not maybe that we should think or expect to be rich from like the personal data that we're generating. If we're not generating personal data in a small niche that has a really high potential value. And then the question is, how do we monetize or also take part of that value without selling all of our data or selling all of ourselves in that way? So that's something to think about. And just one small last thing, and that also how do we get started? So I don't think a small app developer should go out and start to try to compete with Google, like even if TikTok did that. But what we should do is maybe find a niche where you don't have to go head to head, at least not initially. You have to find something else to start with. And then you can maybe move on as you build a much more like bigger product or bigger user base, and maybe generate larger potential base of learnings if it's not a larger potential base of data.
I see.
So that's how it.
And interoperability is at the heart of all that, I can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Interoperability and also infrastructure, because the less infrastructure, the less time and effort you have to spend on like rebuilding all the tooling again and again. That's also like a huge driver for innovation. If you just can focus on the sort of the value layer on top, you don't have to build all the infrastructure layers. There is also just you're shortening the development time and also the possibility to create new models.
Absolutely, that's always a pain. Actually, this is the beauty of the concept that Swarm has enabled, the zero-cost hosting. That is really breakthrough. It's something that is not really easy to grasp at the beginning, but the idea of you have an economic model for a developer where the infrastructure generates revenues, not costs, is something that we haven't seen yet. Actually, haven't seen yet. So, what do you think for developers, for people who wants to, what sort of opportunity does that open, the zero-cost hosting? And I'm asking for the four of you. Maybe I will start pointing. maybe Dixon, who are actually putting some special highlights on that for Personium. How do you see the zero-cost hosting opening opportunities?
I think basically it's because Swarm help developer to do something without big investment in the first place, right? So everyone can have just a smaller Swarm B node started, and then afterwards they can build up whatever they have. And also it's kind of connected to whatever the first question you asked, because initially we cannot just go in and then build Swarm node for everyone. The government has to build the infrastructure first to promote the personal data store or personal data, so that tax money will be spent to provide the whole infrastructure first, and then the citizen will start to using this kind of like idea of keeping their data onto personal data store and then try to reuse it with interesting service or interesting applications. So with the zero-cost hosting, like it helps the developer to concentrate on building interesting services, just to make good use of the data, but without selling it to someone else. So then the user will keep on using it because it's good, and then it will spread out to have like globally that everyone will be using things like decentralized Swarm node. That's what I think.
Awesome. Actually seeing the demos that we've seen this afternoon, I cannot see why it's not going to happen. I mean, I see that already on its path to happen. It's awesome. Okay, so let's talk now about regulation. And I would like to ask the participants, because we're lucky to have a global panel, truly a global panel. We are from different parts of the world, and regulation is different all around the globe. As Chert mentioned before, the EU is making some specific efforts with data spaces, trying to gather all the GDPR, all the regulation is European, but from other EU3 that come from different parts of the world, how regulation is treating data in Russia, in Japan, or anywhere, or the US, for instance?
Well, yeah, I think I would start as a lawyer. So basically, my view is that the GDPR, which is the European law on protection of the personal data, is currently the most advanced. And mostly it's because GDPR puts the person in the center of its interest, the data subject. And that's why actually, like the project I'm working on, the MeetHub project, the Swarm, in the white paper, we analyzed the GDPR as a reference point of the law. And also, like coming back to the first question, why the like behemoths like Google, Facebook, can we actually fight and win over them? I think yes, because currently the people think that giving away the personal data is okay, but actually the GDPR and most of the laws says completely different thing. Mm-hmm. The companies should process the data only as far as it needs to be. And it's just, the status quo, the current status quo, that companies simply skip this question. So as soon as we implemented using a technology like Swarm, it will actually be the new reality. And I'm looking forward to this Dream protocol, which the MeetHub team is also collaborating on. I think it should bring this reality down.
Awesome. Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Thank you, Alexander. I think that I've heard that Japan is leading the field in this regulation on so-called information banking industry. Is it true, Dixon? How do you see it evolve?
Basically, in Japan, we don't have any heavy punishment. Most of the time, it's just a slap on the hand that, the company, when they do something wrong, they will be maybe out of business for a few weeks, and then they can restart the business. Last time, we have some company who's selling analyzed data about job hunters, and then they will show them, it will show to the employers that this guy will be most likely to turn down your offer. So then it will avoid the people of getting the offer from many employers properly. So, but in the end, the company just closed down for a few weeks and then it will start. So the thing would be like in Japan, we always copy the laws from Europe and then US. And when everything is almost ready, then we launch our own law that customized into the Japanese culture. So basically, with the information banking, initially it's kind of thing of selling the data and then telling the citizen that they can make money or whatever. But now it has been there for almost 2 years, but we don't see any like big movement anymore. So then the citizen has already forget about making money by selling their data. So recently, there's been a kind of a momentum that the municipal will create service to actually improve the well-being of the citizens. So they're kind of turning their solutions to the European way. And also, I heard that the guy who, not the guy, but the organization who created the certificate for the information banking, they're trying to learn something from the MyData operators, and then they're trying to collaborate and then to produce some kind of better solutions, and then learning from the European GDPR and also MyData. So definitely, from Asia's point of view, we always like try to learn things and then try to like do customizations. So right now, even though we're leading the idea of business model of information banking, but still everything is still important from the Europe, and especially with the EU data strategy.
Awesome.
So that's from what I see.
Thank you so much. Okay, so unfortunately, I think we have run out of time. So I would like to thank all your participants for this brief talk. It was really insightful to hear you talk about how you implement Swarm into your products. And let's go head back to Michel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for this international team, and thank you, Antonio. And I can't wait to see you in Madrid when this whole virus thing is over. I'm sure we can have some really great tapas somewhere on a terrace in El Noviciado.
Count on that.
Thank you so much. So with this, we can round up our enterprise section, and I would like to ask Gregor to again show his camera and join me on the screen. Oh, you have the same background? I thought you were like gonna switch backgrounds all the time. No?
No, next time. Good idea.
Okay. Is that like is it a secret binary message you have there, or?
Let's take this offline. I cannot confirm or deny this now.
I think it's a mnemonic, right? In binary code. Oh, anyway,
I cannot comment. But Igor knows.
Okay, so anyway, what you probably can comment on is what we will be discussing next. This next section is about the ecosystem, which is basically all the projects and people around Swarm that make this endeavor happen. Now, first thing we should talk about, I think, is, well, Fair Data Society. I think this whole section is sort of about Fair Data Society. I would do a call to go to practical stuff as soon as possible, because I feel like the crowd we have here and the audience we are attracting is totally with us if we talk about ethics and if we talk about principles, etc. So I would love to, show what we have been working on, because this is so exciting. So Gregor, but let's first maybe go through the ethics and why is Fair Data Society so important for Swarm and vice versa.
So thank you, Michelle. So I'll try to keep this as brief. Please do interrupt me, because today we had a great workshop where we had the time to speak, and I would invite actually everybody who wants to know more about this topic to check out the workshop and to join next time new workshops.
Yes.
In essence, it's Swarm is growing, which is what we've been communicating throughout also the previous events. The efforts are growing, and what we also see today is there's a lot of moving parts. The panel we just had is very informative, and it's a world on its own in this regard. We are now, I know, a bit of a spoiler, like also the demos that we are going to see it. It's exciting. So, but at the same time, it's also developers. We want essentially to build good things also, not just things that work. And in order to do this, and in a way that we do it well, we need to do it in a collaborative way. And for this, it's also important we have shared understanding and sort of like also defined shared values. So, also in Swarm's case, Swarm, we're good at code, we're good at developing. At the same time, we also want to see, we speak about fair data economy, to emerge fair data economy, not that mistakes of the previous internets are repeated.
Are you basically saying that the developers don't have ethics?
No, not at all. I think what I'm saying is that we need to speak about this. I think that we need to align, and that we need to basically through such alignment we can do better, and we can maybe avoid some of the mistakes that were done in the past. So
do you think that like a lot of you call it mistakes from the past, but I mean, you're such a nice guy, right? I would just say like it's a big scam. I mean, I'm not convinced. If I look at the Social Dilemma, they say like, yes, but nobody meant to do harm. And then at the same time, I read that Mark Zuckerberg ordered his people to make Facebook as addictive as cigarettes. So, I mean, I just want to point this out because it's so easy for us all to say like, we are doing things by accident, and you might develop a nice thing like a like button, and then if you scale it up, then it becomes a problem, etc. But this is, I mean, I don't agree with this. Like in many cases, it's basically the incentives of an old school capitalistic world that lead to these kind of I can swear, right? Like fucked up situations.
Yes.
And so how do you think then that, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to attack your
please
talk
continue.
here, but like how can we make sure is talking about ethics enough? I mean, to me it feels almost like everything you develop, every time you write a line of code, you are stating an opinion, right? Even if you're just a front-end developer and you're choosing a CSS rule, even if it's a color, you're opinionated, right?
Yes, exactly. And we all are human. It's like we also incorporate our own biases, or we don't think about things. So that's why it's, the Social Dilemma movie is great, but the takeaway, what I miss actually in the Social Dilemma movie is the talk about principles. I missed that they would say like, let's do like this kind of apps, let's have like this framework to evaluate. Let's think about this. Let's think about what kind of world we want to live in.
Yeah, but this is a big political question then, right? It's no longer about, I mean, I think we can, it's sort of easy to map digital ethics to human rights, and we talk about digital human rights, etc. But living in a capitalistic or a neo-capitalism is or a neoliberal system, that's not, it doesn't seem like ethics, right? This is politics. So where do you see the border between ethics and politics?
I think it's like, I basically see ethics a bit like meta, in the sense that just by engaging with ethics, it brings some questions to the forefront. It structures the dialogue. This can be also be applied in politics itself. It could take the politics to the next level. It's, in the sense, what we are seeing today, it could be also argued from the ethical perspective that this void that we have because of the lack of the shared understanding and values has been filled with this consumer capitalism messaging that goes on more like lower impulses of the emotions and to provoke our reactions, instant gratification. It's like the misaligned incentives that we speak. But do we know how to design aligned incentives? How do we think about this? And here the principles that we try to basically use, that we start a dialogue and that we coordinate as an ecosystem, play a major role, because we are creating together our space, our mind space. It's like we're with the shared understanding, we are in essence united in what we want to see to happen, what we want to build.
And still, I mean, I totally agree when we talk about design ethics in technology, but I still I wonder how aligned this entire space is if you start talking about, do we, for instance, a question would be, do we agree that there's like unlimited growth? You would say like in capitalism, it's about like unlimited growth and gain as much as possible for yourself, get a big chunk of the market cap of whatever token we're talking about, right? And so I would argue that this is a fundamental problem. This is what leads to the behavior that these companies are doing. And well, anyhow, I mean, it's something I've been thinking about a long time, the last couple of weeks, and especially this movie, The Social Dilemma, made me realize, like, it's not only a question of technology, or it's not only a question of incentives and business models. It's like a way deeper problem that goes back, like maybe probably like thousands of years that we have to think hard about. But anyway, shall we?
Exactly, and and at the same time, we see this translates usually into a simple metric, net screen on time or stuff like that. Where it kind of reduces the person, us as the product, to one metric and what kind of behavior wants to be triggered.
Yeah, I think the point I want to make is like, we're not only a metric in digital space. I think most people working in companies are being measured in metrics, like how many hours they work, how many sick days they have. So anyway, let's continue this.
Maybe let's have the code speak more a bit. And
yes, exactly.
Them.
So that might be a solution. I think just write code, and if people use it, then you don't have to talk about opinions and politics anymore, because it will be in the tool itself. And I don't know who said it. It might have been Steve Jobs, but I believe that the world will be shaped, our community can be shaped by the tools it is using. Right. I mean, this is how we got this far as a Homo sapiens, by the tools we were using, our society changed, and maybe this is the next step. So let's talk about tooling
and before we conclude this, we need to give a call to action. That we invite everybody to check out the principles, to see what they're about, and to challenge us, to engage the discussion.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, so if we have housekeeping messages, I'm sorry, I totally ruined it with going into this activist conversation. We'll come back to that later. So first of all, I would like to invite Dan to, yes, I'll see you later, Gregor. So Dan, are you there?
I am here.
Yes.
Thank you, Michelle.
Do you have an opinion on, do you have an opinion on this conversation?
So about ethics. No, I think it's fundamentally important, and even coming from a developer's perspective, you can see that the dark and light UX patterns that are built into the apps are absolutely fundamental to guiding human behavior. I think it's something that we need to think about as devs and really consider how we're fundamentally changing people's lifestyles and causing them to go down different paths.
I leave it up to you now. I'm going to mute myself and give you the stage or the screen.
Okay, thank you. So yes, I'll get onto the slightly more concrete subject of building apps on Swarm. So with the beta release, we're really getting to the point now where we've got a really impressive set of tooling to be able to start building applications on top of the Swarm network. And we're in the middle of quite a fundamental phase shift with the way that this works. Previously, the Swarm client has been kind of monolithic and all-encompassing, but we're now moving over to a slightly different scenario where the client itself is more concerned with the disk and propagating data through the network, the incentives layer, and so on. It still provides a rich API, but we have much lower level access now to the basic Swarm primitives. And this really opens up the possibilities of what we can do in terms of app development. And we're really only just starting to scratch the surface of all the different paradigms that we can build on these basic, wonderful primitives that the Swarm team have dreamt up for us. So I'll share my screen. And really the best entry point by far is just to go straight to the documentation. We're concentrating on the actual functionality of the client at the moment, but there's starting to be so many more possibilities for what to be able to do. So you can go to docs.swarm.org and browse through. We've got a nice new set of hopefully very clear documentation. Do feedback and let us know what your experience of that is and any issues that you find or any improvements that you think we might be able to implement for you. New in beta is PSS messaging. And go and check out the tutorial here. So this is essentially a pub subsystem that sits on top of Swarm using the Trojan chunk primitive, which I'll discuss a little bit more later. So you essentially can subscribe to a WebSockets feed, and then other users can send information across the network that is only able to be decrypted by use. We've got a zero leak communication pub subsystem. And this is just one of the possible ways to build applications on Swarm. There are basically 3 different chunk type primitives: content address chunks, single owner chunks, and Trojan chunks, all of which that can be used for different purposes. And these low-level primitives are discussed at length in the book of Swarm, which we encourage you to read. There's a section on advanced high-level structures that are built on top of it, the basic disk. This, for example, is a discussion of aggregation, whereby all of the individual users represented by the different colored dots here own their own data and can retain sovereignty over it. But then in order to increase the efficiency and to make this kind of stack up from a scalability point of view, there's this aggregation procedure that takes place. There's other things we can discuss, such as the universal outbox feed. So this is an example of how to put together persistent messaging over the top of Swarm using single owner chunks. You can see here this is one of the more complex implementations that's discussed the idea of sending multiple single owner chunks, which are deterministic based on their topic and index, in such a way that the receiving user can actually preempt their arrival, creating a low latency messaging system, chat, and so on and so forth. Various kind of forward messaging, forward secrecy rather, backward secrecy, and so on. This is an example of the Trojan chunk itself, whereby a nonce is used to mine a chunk that naturally falls into a node's neighborhood of responsibility. And then all these chunks are processed to determine which are Trojan chunks. And those that are found to be messages are then revealed only to those with the corresponding decryption key. So at the moment, we're just at a point where we've really got to grips with what should the client library be. We've done a lot of proof of concept, so watch this space for developer tooling coming out to enable like JavaScript access to these low-level primitives that you can then push chunks directly into the swarm. And then on top of that, we're also going to be looking at building more high-level libraries. FDS.js was the proof of concepts built on the old Swarm client, and you can see this as the GitHub repo, and the Fair Data Society has high-level constructs that enable accounts to be created. It interacts with the blockchain and enables to send messages, upload files, plug your own contracts in, so on and so forth. So it's really like we're looking at providing like a jQuery or like Rails level interaction, and this will enable then apps to be produced as simply JavaScript files, and all of the rest of the infrastructure works on Swarm, which, as we've mentioned, completely changes the game in terms of development, because not only do you not have to maintain a large back-end infrastructure, but you also don't need to directly pay for that, because your users will cover the costs themselves incrementally in piecemeal. So yeah, do get in touch with us. We want your use cases at the moment. So we're looking for people to get in touch with us, and for us to be able to support you to build your applications on Swarm. We've got bandwidth at the moment to not only help you find your way through the process, but also to directly support you, and it maybe even respond to your specific needs if they're not already catered for. So that's about it from me. Go back to Michelle.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. As always, it's so much, I mean, it's really relaxed listening to you explaining stuff, to be honest. I always go sit back a little bit, and yeah, it's probably your voice and the beard. Anyhow, thank you for that. And as Dan said, like, we are looking for use cases. I think, when are we announcing grants? I think Fair Data Society also is, last time you announced some grants, Dan, I mean, you were playing Sinterklaas, what is it, Santa Claus?
Yes, well, we may have that announcement a little bit later in this segment, I believe.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me of the program. Okay, so I think then next up is Zahur. Hello, Zahur. Are you there? And this is gonna be this is one of the things I always look out for, or look forward to the most, because Zahur is going to show us very hands-on what he has been working on for the last couple of months. Are you there? I can't see you, but
thank you, Michelle. I'm there.
Ah, there you are. Awesome. Yes. Okay. So please, Zahur, go ahead, do your thing.
Yeah, it's actually a little late, so I am sort of feeling sleepy. So
yes, but because maybe you should tell what your time zone is, where you are in the world, because otherwise people will think you are lazy.
Yeah, so I live in India. My name is Zahur. I'm involved in some project for the past, I think, 3.5 years, on and off. Yeah, So I'm going to talk about actually a project called FairOS now. Let me share my screen with you. Where is that? Yes, the browser. Okay, so this project is something which I managed to work when I was working with Swarm full-time. I believe that this is important for the adoption of Swarm, and this comes under the Fair Data Society umbrella. So before going into what is FairOS or anything like that, I'm going to skip some slides and come actually directly to what this is all means. So if you look at the FairOS, it is split into two major layers. One of them is called FairOS DFS, which is decentralized file system, which is what we are going to talk a lot about today. So to give you context, we know about Swarm. Swarm is very good at providing fundamental blocks to build a Web3 storage system. When I mean fundamental blocks, it builds all the protocols necessary to do all these things. It builds stuff to add more tooling on the top, like single owner chunks. It builds fundamental stuff like Trojan chunks, which enable PSS message kind of thing. So it really concentrates a lot on building the fundamental stuffs and making it perfectly right. And now we have a lot of application developers who want to work by storing their data on Swarm. There are different kinds of applications. There are different data access characteristics of each application and all such things. So one of the things that which came to our mind is that why don't we accelerate the development of these third-party apps or these dApps that people try to develop on top? A lot of them are used to Web2 kind of interaction in the UI world. And what if you could actually provide a very similar interface to them, but at the same time make them use of the entire Web3 portfolio, right? That is like giving the cake and having to eat it too, right? So what we tried to build is, a layer called FairOS DFS. DFS stands for Decentralized File System. So what it does is that it does some major functionalities, like user management, how to create a user, how to store the metadata of the user, how to store the key of the user, such that it's available only to the user, but still it's present in a decentralized system. I think the second most important thing is to provide a logical file system on top of Swarm. We did this effort long back, 3 years back, by building a Fuse operating system, like a Fuse driver on top of Swarm to mount the entire Swarm collection into a normal Linux file system. But what we thought is that we need something more. We need something more which is structured, which is controlled by the user, which doesn't have any kernel interactions. Everything is user side and all these things. So this logical drive provides a lot of information like that. And then comes a lot of other things like permission management, when I want to share files with others, when I want to have a group logical drive, like NFS drive across an organization, where a lot of people have permission to read and few have permission to write into that and all this kinds of stuff. And then I think the very important thing is about file formats. This is something not directly related to a file system, but I think it's important to create something like this because to actually cater to the needs of different access patterns of the data. Some application might need really fast access patterns. Some application might need lot of data in actually a batch fashion. Some application might need to store streaming data and retrieve this data, all these things. So a lot of things. I mean, I don't have actually time to say about this. And then at the end, what we also want to build is some kind of native, Swarm native index data structures so that we could help build people dynamic apps which can change state or which can store the state, which can update the state, which can be very dynamic like we have today, like we have the apps like today, right? So for them to store data in an immutable file system and then to update the data needs some logic that needs to be thinked of by the developer side. So what we thought is that we all encapsulate all these things in a very nice package and expose APIs and REPL commands and data drivers like SQL drivers and other data drivers so that applications can start using this data like normal database or any other data storage systems that they are used to, like NoSQL or whatever. So this is what we built it. And this can be used for applications like dApps, FairDrive, FairDrop. These are example dApps which can start using these things. Or you can use the existing big data frameworks that is there out there that a lot of open source people use to process large amounts of data and still store the data in Swarm so that the data is very confined to users, it's permissioned, you don't just take out the data of some user without its permission and all this stuff. So this is the major use case. So now I'm going to directly jump to two use cases. One use case talks about the introduction of FairOS DFS because that is the only thing that is that we have started doing. And the second thing is about how to share file between two different users who are connected to two different Swarm nodes and how can they share data and how fast is it. So I'm going to go to the demo here. The first demo, what you see on the top is actually it's actually a B node. I start in my local system, and what you see in the bottom is actually a DFS node. I start in the local system. I point the DFS node to the B node and the stats. So the B node stats, it's a new B node. Its API address is localhost, and FairOS DS is connected to localhost. FairOS DFS, okay, I'm just going to pause here. So you create a new user. User is the basic unit, which is on the top. So every user needs to create one user. Below that, he can create different drives. Drives are like in a Windows system, you create C:, D:, E:, and store different things in different drives. These are logical drives, right? Which is on top of the real storage device. So you can create logical devices or logical drives and start to put information inside the logical drives. So when you create a user, if you don't supply any mnemonic, I myself create a mnemonic and expose it so that the user can store it. Otherwise, in later stages, we want to use external signers like Clef or other such signers like Ledger and all these things so that this is not really exposed to outside world. You can be sure that this is your data. So next, what it does is that it tries to create a pod. A pod is, as I said, is a logical drive So it creates a pod called my drive, and there is nothing in the pod, so it creates a couple of directories in the pod. It tries to upload file from the local file system into the pod. When I say 10M, it is the way in which you want to split the file and store it into B. And also when I say false, it is the compression argument. So if you have a text file or something like that, you can make it true so that it is really compressed, right? So this is uploaded. If you see on the top, I tried to show what is the size of the file. It's 156 MB. So yeah, the file is uploaded here. Once the file is uploaded, you can see the file during ls, and you can also do something called a stat. Stat shows a lot of details about the file, about which pod it is there, and what directory, what is the file size, what is the block size in the file. And it shows for every block. Blocks are numbered with block 00000 to 00009 or 99999. So every block, it shows what is the swarm hash. So as you can see, the swarm hash here is long, which means it's encrypted block, and it shows the bytes of the block. And if it's compressed, it will show the compressed size of the block. So this is like a cool thing. So if you want to give this file to process in a parallel fashion, all these blocks can be processed in a very parallel fashion using any computation framework. So what I do here is that I again log out, I log in into the same user drive, and I see the same file is already there, right? So this is the basic demo of Pharo DFS. Now inside the second demo, you see four terminals. The top two terminals are two B's local instances. I try to connect them to form a small network. The B on the left is the browns, not the brown, the black window on the left is the DFS that is connected to B1. The black window on the left is a DFS that is connected to B2, just to show that there is a communication in between B also, right? So in the B1, I already have a user called Alice that I created in the previous stuff. And what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to actually create B2 and give the boot node of the address of B1 as the boot node, so that it goes and connects with the B1, and it just connects and forms a network. So you can see this is connected. Wait a minute. Yes, this is successfully connected to this peer, and this also says the same thing. And I start the second B. Second B is empty, so I create a user called Bob. Bob creates a pod, and there is nothing inside the pod. Okay, so what I do here is that now I try to upload a new file called curls commands, which is just a small file. Upload the file. Yeah, once I upload the file, I get a reference. Now, what I want to do is that I want to share the file to user Bob. Now, when you share a file, you get something called as a share reference, right? So which includes a lot of other things like the encryption information of the file, not the file, entire file, or the metadata of the file, and who sent this file at what time, and blah, 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 all this information. So this reference is actually sent to Bob through some other means, email, telegram, whatever. There is no problem that somebody will actually take it and all these things. Now, what you do is in user Bob, you actually take this and run a command called receive info and give the same hash. This will say that what is that file that is being shared with me? Do I really need to get the file, or I don't like the file? So once you decide that, yeah, I need the file, you say receive this file and at this directory location, right? And the file is there, boom. it is showing in your ls. You can do stat like you used to do. You can also do cat to show the contents of the file. Now this file has been moved from user A to user B, which are connected to two different Bs. That means we use the same fundamental B mechanisms to transfer information from one B to another B. It's basically SOC chunks and the same content address chunks, which is exactly the same as in B. So what you have to take back is that DFS is a stateless layer which provides all this abstraction. When I say stateless, all the state that you do, you upload a file, you create metadata, you do a sharing, everything is stored only in Swarm. That means it has a very distinct advantage that if you have the key, if you have your key, you can go to any other device in the world and can just log in using the key and your data is available to you there. Boom, right? This is very, very, very important because we don't have a state. We don't store state here. We store all the state in Swarm, which is what Swarm is very good at. And we make use of that 100%. You would have seen, directories. Now, if I add something in the directory, I can remove something from the directory. So the entity which I call directory is actually a mutable entity. So in Swarm, everything is immutable. So the SOC chunk in Swarm exposes this immutability stuff to outside world. But what I have done here is that we have built something called feeds, which was there in the older Swarm, along with this SOC, which is the new technology, and provided a mutable structure on top of this, which is like simulates the real world scenario, right? And I want to go back to my presentation just to show you, there are a lot of things that we need help. If you go to FairOS DFS, there are a lot of issues there. We want to create pod that can be shared, which is like an NTFS file system across an organization. We want to create a lot of other things like, let me go to these FairOS DFS issues. So yeah, so we want to actually charge BZZ tokens for uploading and downloading a file. So it's not free, right? It's not free. Like Michelle said, if it is free, then you are the product. So it's not free to upload a file and download a file. So when the storage incentives in Swarm comes up, we are very close with Swarm team, I am also working in Swarm team. So we know when things are moving, when things are coming out, and we will build this storage incentives and all these kinds of stuffs right into this layer, so that when you upload something, it will say that, okay, if you store this file for this much time, this much BZZ token will be gone, right? And you should prepaid, you should maybe top up your prepaid wallet for BZZ so that it stays there. If it is not there, then it's your own risk because things can be garbage collected, right? So things like that, right? And there are a lot of other things like, file seek support, creating soft links so that I don't hold two same files, or two different people hold two same files and waste the space, and all these kinds of things.
Zahur, I have to nudge you a little bit to move on to maybe show the next thing, which I think is yes. It's not that I want to take credit here, but this is the thing we have been working on together.
Thank you very much for reminding. I'm a guy who's like really, really not time bound, and I keep on speaking a lot. So Thank you very much for reminding. So as I said, right, this is like a platform which enables developers to make a lot of nice apps. And our nice Michelle, she did a beautiful app called FairDrive. I mean, all these things what we have done are baby steps. Of course, there are a lot of things to do. So what this FairDrive does is that it creates a drive for you. It gives a UI punch to use the system that I was explaining. So you can log in as a user, you can create a user, you can log in as a user. I hope I have given the correct password. Yes. So this is my FairDrive. I have some documents, movies, music, picture, my folder. I think in the last demo, I uploaded the FairOS presentation itself. So you could download the file, you could share the file with another person. All these kinds of things are built into this. This is exactly what we want to show as the, in a way where this uses FairOS's APIs directly, right? And it becomes so simple to build applications like this on top of this, to store information, to retrieve information, to store metadata, to do all kinds of things on the data that you are usually used to, right? Even the login and all these things are very Web2 compatible and all these things. So yeah, I mean, we are slowly looking at how to introduce other Web3 concepts into that. Like,
yes. So yes, thank you so much, Sahur. I just want to remind everybody that this is just like a fast prototype, and that it would be really cool if people join us up in building this. Sahur, thank you so much for your presentation, and we'll be seeing you later, or in a couple of minutes, I think, in the AMA. So please.
Thank you very much, Michelle. It's pleasure always talking to you.
Thank you, Sahur, and I'll see you later. So I would like to invite now, I think, unless someone, I think we are at the end of the program, actually. So I would like to invite the team, everybody, to enable their cameras.
Just before we go, Michelle.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dan.
We'd just like to, fanfare, please, announce the second wave of grants.
Please
so
do.
Thanks for sticking with us, everyone. We're today announcing the beta wave of grants on Swarm. These are grants to help people to create dApps, mini dApps for FairDrive, or layer 2 solutions on Swarm. We're looking for experimental and playful applications, big and small. And there's a total pool of 100,000 DAI worth of BZZ tokens. So I'm going to post the application form now into the chat here in Zoom, and we'll distribute it, no doubt, on our social media and other channels. And we'd love you to send us your applications. We look forward to going through those and distributing the loot. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, Uncle Dan, who is handing out BZZ tokens to all of you. Lovely. So Dan, please just stick with us, and I would like to invite all the team members to open up their cameras because we are at the end of our event, where we traditionally, can you say that after a couple of times, traditionally we want to answer all your questions. So please, can you all enable your cameras? But please stay unmuted until Janos. Until I say your name, because otherwise it's going to be a little bit chaotic. So let's start with the questions that we received in the Zoom call. Oh, we have an anonymous attendee. Oh, I always like that because it gets my fantasy going. So the anonymous attendee is confessing something. He's confessing, or she or he. It is confessing that she or he hasn't read the entire 300+ page book of Swarm. But I've heard of single owner chunks mentioned twice so far today. Actually, it has been mentioned a lot more. So can somebody give a short and good description of what single owner chunks are? Go raise your hands here. Rinke wants to enable his camera. I can imagine this because it's a really, oh, this is funny. Okay, so we're going to the Swarm HQ, our centralized point of attention. And so please, Rinke, can you and your panel answer this question? What is a single owner chunk?
Okay, so single owner chunks are basically a scheme to distribute part of the address space to personal use, which means that you own, if you own a private key, then you're entitled to write to a particular part of the address space. And what you write into that address is signed by your private key. So validation of the address is done by basically doing a validation on the signature, and the address that you can write to is deterministically derived from your and an ID.
Okay, so we have a problem with the audio coming from the Swarm HQ. I don't know if there's somebody there who can fix this. We have, I think, the audio from Rinke's computer, who seems to be very far from the table. So if we can fix this for the next question, that would be cool.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I heard it, but I have in-ears that are like really loud, so I don't know if for you know, for the audience this was clear. I can maybe recap it. It's basically a space on Swarm that only you can write in with your key pair.
Yes, and it has yeah, basically if you want a key pair, you can write to some part of the address space, and thereby like create locations where based on convention or some sort of consensus, someone can look up content. So this can serve as the basis for a communication channel. Like basically you can preset rendezvous points where you find the next message in a chat, or you can write feeds, like for example temporarily sequenced related content. Like for example, your Twitter updates, your Facebook updates, you can write into a feed where the feeds updates addresses are derived from a basically a convention that uses your public key and some sort of sequence ID. And
okay, so the person who was asking this question, well, I don't know, but so the person was anonymous who was asking this question, and then suddenly we see someone popping up in the chat saying, I didn't want to be anonymous. So I don't know if it's actually true that this person was the anonymous person, but someone is claiming the anonymous persona right now. But I don't see any hashes or anything, so I don't know if you can trust it. Anyway, let's go to the next question. Maybe this is one for Gregor. Gregor, what is this amazing Swarm HQ background music? Is it even coming from Swarm HQ? I don't think so. I mean, I don't know.
That's an internet pirate radio station called plur.buzz.
So it's also.
I mean, pirate just by attitude, because it's playing free music anyway. So in the sense of just, you know, being less known, being more underground. So plur.buzz.
Plur.buzz. So everybody go to plur.buzz for free music. Okay, so let's go to other question. Here we go. So, oh, this is, I like this question. So how does, I hope Victor's sound is good. Otherwise, we will go to Janos. How does B beta compare to IPFS? Do you have feature parity now? Janos? Or is Swarm HQ able to answer this question with good sound? So this sounds better. Can you say something, Rinky?
Well, can we answer here?
Yeah, it's still very silent. So I would suggest that Janos answer this question. Janos, can you unmute, please?
Yeah, sorry.
So the question is, do we have with Swarm B beta, do we have feature parity with IPFS?
No, we do not have.
We do not have that. So how many people in this group would say we have it and how many people would say we don't have it? Sorry, it's impossible to do a poll like that. So Swarm HQ, I hope your sound is better now because it's like impossible to hear what you're saying. Let's try it again.
If you allow me, maybe I can comment on what I think is similar or different. So feature parity is not the right word because Swarm has a lot of features that IPFS don't, and IPFS probably has some features that Swarm doesn't. But if you really restrict your attention to file storage and persistence, then one feature that came with beta is kind of making up for some of the advantage that IPFS had, namely that at least your own node stored the data, and therefore, as a last resort, if your storing node was registered in the main registry and was online, then your content can always be retrieved. With global pinning, basically we solve the same. So at least if you operate voluntary pinner nodes or you yourself advertise yourself as a recovery node that pins the content, then Swarm now has this recovery mechanism, this protocol that after failing to retrieve a chunk from its canonical location in the network, it falls back to advertise pinners and recover the content. And the content will also be repaired in the proper locality. So in that sense, we achieved similar measures to achieve persistence. But I have to mention that these are really both for IPFS and Swarm. These are not really meant to be much more than stopgap measures or really emergency fallbacks in case of OS fails. And both in the case of Filecoin and Swarm, it's long-term storage incentives that are meant to solve the problem of long-term storage. Uploaders can choose to calibrate with how much certainty and what period length they want their files to be preserved. And these features of storage incentives will come in the next release of Swarm.
Yeah, and maybe also as one example of something that Swarm has, but IPFS doesn't currently have. So IPFS is you're not really uploading something to the IPFS network. What you're doing, you're announcing to the DHT from IPFS that people can find certain resource on your location. So there's not really something as uploads and disappear because you're not uploading to the IPFS network, it doesn't exist. So in Swarm, really you're uploading something to a network. So what you can do in Swarm and not in IPFS is upload something and go offline. That's an example, but I think really these are two different beasts. People think about them in one go because it's both decentralized storage, but they're really solving different things and doing it in different ways. And that's why feature parity on SIG is maybe not the right question.
And I should add that maybe in the future, the two projects will develop APIs by which they can complement each other. So actually, we are looking forward to a time when Swarm content will be available through an IPFS namespace, and conversely, where IPFS addresses will be, it will be possible to use Swarm as a backend storage for IPFS content. I think that is not off the table. So these two projects are in some ways complementary to each other.
Okay, that's amazing to hear. It seems like the world is not enough for Swarm. One question I think maybe the same group of people can answer: what will Swarm 1.0 have that Beta still doesn't have? And Rinke, I think you can maybe address that.
Yeah, of course. So what I mentioned in my presentation, really the big thing of Swarm 1.0 will be the storage incentives. And apart from that, we will iterate on the features which we already released with Beta to make them more useful. And
yes, sorry to interrupt you, but I think this is important to address. So are you talking, so right now we are talking about a bus token that's on Goerli network, right? It's GBus. So what will be in 1.0 then?
So the 1.0 release will have BCC tokens on the Swarm, sorry, on the Ethereum mainnet.
Really?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
I believe you. I believe you. It's just like that's really cool. What does this mean? Does this mean that everything that people do now to help us out or to run nodes, that it's basically worthless until we have 1.0?
Yes and no. Like tokens on the Goerli Ethereum network are tokens. So it's on a test network, but it's still on the blockchain, which is maintained by people. So definitely, if you're going to run your Swarm nodes and earn Goerli BCC tokens, I cannot promise anything here, but internally we have been thinking as well about what we can do with that, because definitely we are really valuing people who are already starting up their BCC nodes, the Swarm nodes right now. And with the Goerli test network, right now we have a way how we can actually validate and quantify that you have been contributing to the network. So.
Okay, thank you, Rinke, for that answer. I want to go quickly to Gregor. Gregor, are you there?
Yes.
So yeah, Gregor, I mistook your background for ones and zeros, which is not true, right? It's something else. Oh, can I quickly point out Igor Kraft is here. He's the guy who is doing all this amazing artwork and visuals and art. Igor, just wait for a second. I don't, I'm not going to ask you to start talking about all this because it's you should have your own event, I think. But Gregor, what Rinke just said, is this legal even? Is this because he's basically saying like, we're going to have testnet tokens that are sort of valuable. Like,
I'm not saying that.
I think you just did. But anyway, we'll do a replay later. So Gregor, but what
it's like I need to say, like, please, whatever I say, don't consider it as a financial advice. Don't consider it as a legal advice, and I cannot deny or confirm it.
That's awesome. I just love it when you say that. It's like you push a button and then the sound clip from Gregor comes out.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyhow, so let's go back to the AMA. Yes, this is a simple one. For Danny, can you please share a link to the description of the Dream protocol? I would love to read it as well. So I think it's a very valid question. So if you can, just share this somewhere in the Swarm Orange Lounge.
A good description of the Dream protocol will be part of the Book of Swarm. As you know, the Book of Swarm is a living document that we keep extending and maintaining. So the ultimate source for everything Swarm is and will always remain the Book of Swarm. So that's where the description of the Dream protocol will be. There will be soon a draft proposal for it online. I'm not sure that there's already a link which we're ready to share, but there will be really soon. And also going back to the previous question, maybe, just maybe, the Dream protocol will also be part of Swarm 1.0.
Okay, this is amazing. You put three brilliant guys together in a room and you get a lot of announcements. That's really cool. Thank you for that. Gregor, back to no, I'm not going to do this even. So the other question is, this is a somewhat more serious note. Do I build on top of the higher level, for instance, BZZ API, or should I build on top of the lower level chunks API? And what is the difference between those? And I would also want to add a little bit of a personal question, and that is, I heard Rinke talk about, I think, a directory endpoint or something like that. So I would like to know more about that. So who wants to answer that question?
Yeah, I
Rinke?
mean, I
Yeah.
can answer it. So as you know, we are with the bnode, we are releasing APIs on different levels. We have the APIs which give the features and everything, but we know that the
You're
Swarm
muted, Rinke.
I muted? No.
I can hear Rinke. No, it's not a problem. I can
Okay,
hear.
so we know that we as the Swarm team only have limited know-how of what people can make with Swarm. Like Swarm is so new and so big that there are probably a lot of things which we cannot even think about. So that's why we also have the lower level APIs, and a good example of that is the Chunks API, where you can directly upload and download chunks from your bnode. And we really want people to have the possibility basically to even remake our Deers API with some sort of second level JavaScript tooling. And in the end, this is also how we envision the B project. Even though right now we offer higher level APIs, we actually envision the B nodes in the future to do less than we are doing right now. So right now we took a shortcut and having richer APIs just to get this this wheel to start flying and people to start building on top of B. But I personally would like B to be in 1.5/2 years from now to have it only the lower level APIs and do it much less than it does right now, and have a very rich source of developers and people who build the second layer tools that can do what B does right now, but can also do much more.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rinke. That's the goal. In fact, the real goal is to have a DSL which can kind of reformulate all these higher level structures with the help of lower level primitives that the bnode would run. And it's kind of I think it's a good plan in the future, because reducing the scope of a component, critical component, is always a good goal to have. And thereby also offering plurality of the high level tooling. But what I also need to say to answer your question, which one should be on, that although that's true that we can imagine multiple different high level APIs and high level ways of, for example, represent files, do encryption, represent directories. However, a lot of research and trial and error we've been through and to converge on the current solution. And I think it's far from trivial how to do things, and therefore we offer this know-how and this particular way of representing files and directories. And if you want to do only that, I would definitely recommend to use the higher level API, because why not? That's why we're offering it. And offer the low level one if you want to experiment with different data structure representation of files, or have a use case where we don't even talk about files. For example, some sort of backend front end to a blog device or something. So this is what the low level API is meant to be for.
Thank you so much, Victor, for that very.
Sorry. So I was going to say that I would go even one step further and say that try to implement your application using the high-level API and use the low-level API even if you find some deficiency in the higher level API, and even then try to build a layer in between your application and the low level API, and maybe that layer that you build will eventually become part of the standard Swarm APIs. So because eventually Swarm will also store all the libraries that are used for Swarm content, and the nice way to contribute to the growth of Swarm is if you find the deficiency in the higher level APIs, then you just build a library of your own and share it with the rest of the community. I think that's the way forward.
Yes.
Absolutely, and it perfectly also adds to the message of the unity, or like build this together, come together. This is a question. So in the next question, please raise your hand if you want to answer this question. Who is the CEO of Swarm?
Let me answer that question. So,
there's the answer. Yes. So Gregor, please, can you shine your light on who is the CEO of Swarm?
Swarm doesn't have a CEO because CEO is basically a symbol of exactly the of the world that we don't want to build, of the alternative that we want to create. We do have, in this regard, I guess we do have project managers, managing directors and stuff like that. There's an executive team that deals with strategy, but the goal of Swarm is actually to really democratize this, to extend all the parts into the environment, and to grow, to basically create a Swarm. So in innovation management or business models science, I guess it could be shortly described that we are aiming to be a so-called teal organization.
What?
A so-called teal organization. This is a part of Lalux's classification. Basically, essentially saying, it's like CEO is the symbol of centralization. So how would Swarm walk its talk with a CEO?
Yeah, and this is not just a dream from you, Gregor. Like, I can speak from my personal experience that we have actually many leaders in the Swarm project. We have thought leaders, we have leaders, I don't know for what, we have leaders for a lot of different areas. And I think there is room and space if you are a member of the Swarm project, and even if you're not a member of the Swarm project, you can become a leader, and hence we have a lot of leaders, and it's sometimes difficult, but I think it works really nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So is it a little bit like this? What is this called? This mythological beast with multiple heads, and if you cut off one head, it grows two new.
Yes, in a way. Yes, very good. Yeah. I mean, it's like when you mention CEO. So the next question is, what's the change in the shareholder value? And again, it's like, what kind of question is this in the world of Swarm?
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're absolutely. I mean, no, I totally agree. You're preaching to the choir here. I mean, this is an interesting question by Jean-Emmanuel Baliba. Are we still planning to store the Ethereum blockchain on Swarm? I think this is a fun question that could have many answers, and let's make it not too long, the answer. Let's try to do this in a couple of minutes, maybe.
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely, no, that's yes. Too short. A little bit. You can a little bit more, please.
So there was a kickoff kind of pilot of this project, which we've been doing with Zahur, and it was very successful. We worked together with the Trinity team, like the Python client team, with Piper, and basically got as far as having the header chain, basically the header chain served from Swarm by Swarm to Trinity nodes, and so this was a cross-protocol scheme. Now we already have laid out the actual design for how how the blockchain and the state would be stored and retrieved and distributed. So it's all done, but we have to concentrate on the fundamentals now. I mean, this would have come in very handy, but at the time when it was taking off, we didn't have the funding to support it. Now probably this will continue with as time allows us to set up new vestiges, but the core team is really concentrating and focusing on delivering the core of the product 1.0. But yes, definitely yes, and it will have very interesting features. So for example, it will directly be usable by light clients. It will support, basically it will provide a direct API serving as a decentralized explorer. So there's lots of interesting features, and of course help node sync. That's most important, because of syncing lag, or the storage capacity and time it takes for Ethereum nodes to sync up the blockchain is actually prohibitive at the moment, and really causes a trouble in the diversity of node operators.
So let me just clarify this a little bit. The developer of the Light Client and Light Server protocol actually happens to be a Swarm veteran. He no longer is part of this team. He's working full-time on the Light Client, and we're talking about Zsolt Felföldi, who lives in Budapest and is our good friend. So he has a very good understanding of Swarm. And because of that, the future of the Light protocol is very much intertwined with the future of Swarm. And right now, the bottleneck that the Light client faces, and which everybody who tries to use it will see, that currently the load on the Light servers is just too much. And Swarm aims to take a lot of that load off the shoulder of Light servers and serving state data directly to Light clients. So that's...
Thank you. So so let's do two more questions and then we should wrap it up. Victor, I loved when you say like it stems from a time where we didn't really have the funding to do it. That seems like a distant memory now, and which is like totally cool because now we're unstoppable. I just want to repeat this because I think it sounds cool. This is maybe another question. What about a multi-client network? That's something that I've been thinking as well. So we're now our client is in the Golang, how do you say this, language? And so will we have like a multi-client network?
Whenever you, dear audience, got up your asses and start putting together a client, please. So yes, in a way, we encourage people to consult the consolidating documentation of and specs and try to build alternative clients. We originally planned it to come a bit earlier, but it doesn't seem to happen. I think it's very important to have a real consolidated network and as Ethereum showed, it's very important to have a very strict protocol specification, and it helps thinking about potential vulnerabilities and can forego security breaches easily. So I encourage people to do this. I mean, as a kind of side or kind of child project of building such a client is related to light clients, or more specifically, Swarm in the browser. Because what we ultimately want to achieve is for any user with a completely clean slate and completely naive user without any crypto, just to browse to the gateway, download an executable JavaScript light client, and connect to the network directly. This is the dream situation, and of course the promise of bootstrapping your crypto holding from running the Swarm node is still on the cards, and it's something that we're going to deliver by 1.0.
Yes, I think this is something we should definitely touch on next time, like how basically running a node will be a way to get started in crypto. I have to almost wrap it up. There's one more question which I think is relevant, and that is like, I don't know how much a transaction is now on Ethereum mainnet, but it's a lot. So just even like sending money to someone, it's stupid. Let's call it what it is. So what with, I've seen all these checkbooks and accounting stuff, etc. But what good is it if we don't have like a blockchain that actually can handle this?
Yeah, the funny thing is that both the postage stamp redistribution method of the storage incentives that we're planning, and as well as the actual settlement or cash out of checks, both are calibrated or can be calibrated in a way that the node can make sure that their transaction cost will only be a particular allowed percentage of the gain that they get from the transaction. So basically, you can maximize your administrative overhead and calibrate your protocols that way. Of course, it has certain consequences. So in the checkbook, it is the case that there's certain risk zone that you have to then put up with, because basically accumulating checks until the cashing of the check is more than, like, I don't know, 20 times your transaction cost. Then of course you in principle allow yourself to be cheated by a bounced check when the checkbook owner that owes you basically dries up their balance, and there's a bank run, and the cash out check will bounce. But this is supposed to be not huge amounts, and there's other types of disincentives to nodes for against behaving this way. Basically, there's the principle of repeated dealings, which we are basically disincentivized from nodes from misbehaving and leaving their checkbook unfounded.
And I should add that the beta release is the first release of the B client where you can actually experiment with this stuff. So this is the first release where you can actually get down to, balancing what happens on chain and what happens off chain. And sure, inside the team, we are going to, find out ways to present it in a user-friendly fashion, that it happens as seamlessly as possible from the user's perspective, that you never lose money.
Okay, thank you so much for all these answers. I want to go to Dixon. Dixon, can you unmute, please? Dixon, how are you holding up? What time is it in Japan?
It's 4:27 in the morning.
It's 4:20.
Yeah, in the morning. I have to go to work again at 9 o'clock.
I think you're very brave to still be with us. So Dixon, you'll probably agree with me that we should round it up here, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last question.
So this was the last question, basically, yes. So I want to have a special shout out personally to Ralph, because you rocked my world tonight. To the entire team, of course, thank you so much for doing this together. I think we totally have come together this evening. And I also want to thank the attendees who witnessed this long but very interesting event. I think I can announce the next event, which will be Swarm Live. And then there will be, again, tons of new features presented by this team. From Antwerp, I want to bid you a very good night, or a good morning for you, Dixon and Zahor. Yes, so we'll see each other soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.